Hello. Sorry for not streaming yesterday. I got really caught up in watching Bleach because I want to finish it before the new season comes out. And I'm going through every non-filler episode. So yeah, I kind of got caught up on that. I wanted to do it since it was announced that it's coming out in October, but I don't really have that much free time to watch the show, you know. And also, I wanted to read the manga in parallel, because I have never actually read it. I only read like the final arc. Yeah, but I'm even more behind on the manga, so right now I'm at the part where Grimjo comes to Karakura City for the first time. And in the manga, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not even like halfway through the Soul Society arc. Ichigo didn't only just fought Ikaku, you know? That's where I am. He just met up with Hanatoro for the first time. Yeah, that's where I'm at with the manga. Very behind. Because I try to like read it before I go to bed, but I'm pretty exhausted by the time I go to bed, and I just can't. I just fall asleep. I can't read it like that. Yeah, let's read this now. Scenario 47 has been updated. Wait, what? What does that mean? It wasn't updated now. Something changed. Weird. But okay. I was at the beginning of the day, so there can't be any checkpoint on this. Yep. It's the doorbell. That's ringing. It definitely wasn't Himitsu, since yesterday I hadn't locked the door from the inside. I didn't even have a chance to check what time it was. But the sun shining outside meant it was probably early morning. By the time I approached the door, the ringing gave way to furious knocking. I'm coming. Ringing the door was an infuriated Kagome. Where are the documents? Did you take them? Yomura-san, do you even know what time it is? By the way, what time is it? Documents, she repeated in a threatening tone, and unceremoniously squeezed herself inside, putting me aside with an elbow. I obediently followed her. Aha! Kagome exclaimed victoriously, having discovered the documents on the kitchen table. I've been so tired yesterday that I went to bed immediately after tossing them there. It's 6 o'clock, for God's sake. I pleaded after checking the time. What time do trains start in Japan? If she got here at 6, and it takes a while to get from her house to our house, I understood. So she left at like 5? I guess that's okay. That's probably on the first train. No wonder I felt so terrible. I'd only managed to sleep for 3 hours, if that. Yeah, see. Are the trains running already? Or did you come on foot? Who allowed you to take the documents? I thought it'd be safer this way. He thought. Next time, think harder. Grab the entire pile of papers and prepare to leave. Wait, listen to me for a moment. Kagome suddenly stopped, but didn't say a word. KGB people already knew where I was going yesterday, so, to a degree, I had nothing to fear. They must be following you as well. They may have seen the courier deliver these papers to your restaurant. I spent a while thinking deeply about it, like she'd been asked to solve a Millennium Challenge. Either way, Ichinose-san sent them to me. I'm sure he would approve of my actions if he knew what we do now. Kagome didn't respond. Instead, she returned to the table, carefully put the folder with the documents on it, and sat down on a chair. You could have told me instead of running away when I fell asleep. I didn't want to wake you up. I noticed. Well, do excuse me for... That's not what I meant. He put me in bed. Thank you. The nights are getting colder. I didn't want you to get sick. I replied with embarrassment. Bro, how did I land on the Kagome route? I thought it was just the standard. But it feels like we're on her route. Okay. I mean, I don't mind. Just I wasn't planning for this. If it'll make you feel better, you can take documents. You're right. I should have talked to you first. No, it's fine. But matters that they're safe. We'll need them today. What for? I called an acquaintance of my father, and he agreed to meet with us. He's a scientist as well, so he'd likely get more of these papers than either of us. So, it's good and all, but what about the surveillance? I'm confident nobody's been following me today. So was I until yesterday did it from Irina. What made you think that she was telling the truth? What made me? She said slowly. Really? The thought had never crossed my mind. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean you're being followed. Is the opposite true? The seemingly obvious fact that I was being followed have made me paranoid? Why would she lie about something like that? And why wouldn't they be watching me? Think Soviet spies just casually walk around the streets in the middle of the day and follow anyone they want? I think the Japanese government might have something to say about that. Well, if you put it that way. It's probably stupid of me to assume Irina and her colleagues' actions met no resistance. Oh no, Irina's and her. Okay, sorry, confusing. Irina's and her colleagues' actions. Got you. And why would they risk exposing themselves over some school kid? But she knew things she couldn't have learned otherwise. I thought about it. Maybe they watch my residence in your house. Maybe our school as well. I don't know. But if they had an agent constantly following your every move, they wouldn't have enough men. It wasn't likely that Irina had brought an entire spy division with her from the USSR. Agman was probably right about that. But you must know we have no way to make sure if any of that is true. If they really aren't watching us, we'll never find out. Could it be worse? Suddenly smirked and lazily leaned back in the chair. We might get killed. Is this really life? I think that as long as you're alive, healthy and sane, it is. You've only got one life and shouldn't be so careless with it. Listen to this philosophizing. Listen to this existentialism. Kagome coughed. Walked to the fridge, opened it, and carefully checked its contents. What are you doing? I'm going to make breakfast. Suddenly froze, closed the door, turned to me, and added with a smirk. Unless my lord would object, of course. I personally haven't eaten yet because I had to run to your place first thing in the morning. Your lord has no objections. I mocked her and left the kitchen to freshen up. 10 minutes later, various plates, bowls, and pots had appeared on the table. It was a traditional Japanese breakfast, except for the fish I didn't have. Honestly, I found it hard to grasp where Kagome had managed to find the ingredients to cook all this in the first place. Truly, a stone soup. Something not to your liking? What made you think that? Your expression. What expression? That one. Grumbled and started eating. Well, she was no worse a cook than Himitsu, as I had already discovered. It's just that Himitsu hadn't made a simple breakfast into such a feast in a long while. Maybe Kagome just wanted to show off a bit. Everyone loves having their talents appreciated. And it seemed to me she was extremely confident in her cooking. Everything's very tasty. I didn't expect. You didn't expect? Not what I wanted to. Forget it. Then you watched your red-headed friend's cooking. Mitsu? How do you know she cooks for me? You'd have to be blind not to notice that you bring a bento with you almost every day. I doubt you make them yourself. Fair enough. And no, not any worse. Thank you. Folded my hands in a praying gesture and gave her a demonstratively slow bow. You don't need to go that far. Say so. So when and where will this acquaintance of yours be waiting for us? Are you sure that meeting at a train station in the morning during rush hour is a good idea? I spent the entire way on alert, trying to confuse any potential pursuers by choosing longer routes. Luckily, we had enough time for that. If they're really following us like you claim, then what does it matter? We won't be safe anywhere. You're right. I acknowledged, reluctantly. Kagome's father's acquaintance appeared right on time. Seemed to be around the same age as Ichinose, but looked more youthful. slim, fit, and energetic. His eyes still had a spark to them. I quickly decided that we should go to my favorite bar. It was close to the station. There was little chance people would bother us there at this hour. The bartender was peacefully dozing off behind the counter and didn't even give me a welcoming shout. He just greeted me politely. Shimura-san, this is Nikolai. Kagome introduced me briefly. Pleasure to meet you. Likewise, let's get to the point. Guess you've got a lot of material. Yeah, like papers with dots on them. Very interesting. And it's funny how these like distort because the paper is folded up a bit. The ones in his hand. Nishimura quickly flipped to the folder, then picked out a few sheets, took them out, and started to examine them more carefully. Well, very interesting. I fidgeted impatiently in my seat, just stood in front of the teacher checking his exam paper. It was better not to hurry him, but waiting patiently turned out to be extremely difficult. Kagome, on the contrary, looked outwardly calm, but I was absolutely sure the same emotions were boiling inside of her. You're saying that Ichinosu-san gave this to you? Do you know each other? Yes, we've met at a few scientific conferences, but I wouldn't say we're personally acquainted. It wouldn't be wise to tell him what happened to Ichinosu. To be honest, I had no idea what level of transparency was appropriate with talking with the man. All Kagome had told me was that we'd show him the documents, and I had no good reason to object. After all, I also wanted to find out more about all this, even though I was afraid to make a mistake. It's strange that he gave such important documents to you, Kagome-chan. You see, my dad, he wasn't good at lying, especially lying about serious matters, or looking the other person in the eye. So I had to step in so as to not make him suspicious from the get-go. Come on, Kagome, there's nothing to be shy about. See, Akira-san is in the hospital. Being serious, I hope? Shimura asked with sincere sympathy in his voice. Nothing serious, just acute pancreatitis. The doctors insisted on hospitalization. I had no idea he had pancreatitis. I cursed at myself for a faint improvisation, but Nishimura continued. Although we haven't talked in a while, that's also why I was surprised by your call this morning. Sorry about that. It's fine. It's not like I'm busy at the moment. Life gets pretty boring in retirement. It was a bit of a shake-up. It seemed like we got lucky. We spent some more time studying the papers before I finally ran out of patience. Nishimura-san, have you figured anything out? He took his eyes off the documents and looked at me intently from over his glasses. Oh yes, a lot. Except for one thing. How did this material end up in your hands? Is that important? I asked with irritation. It's important to me to make sure that you aren't trying to drag me into something bad. Not to mention, I heard that these efforts were going to be discontinued. Carefully looked first at me, then at Kagome, like a judge waiting for a response from the defendants. We're just asking for your help because we can't figure this thing out ourselves. No wonder this... Suddenly his voice trembled, and an expression of awe appeared on his face, as if those weren't simple paper sheets he was holding, but at the very least, the bleeding icon of the Divine Mother. This is a scientific breakthrough that would push us years, maybe even decades ahead. And what's this breakthrough about? First, answer my question. I looked at Kagome. She was sitting there with an expression of stubborn determination on her face. It was clear that she wasn't about to tell him anything, even under torture. I wasn't so radical about it, but I didn't want to argue with her in front of Nishimura. We told you, Ichinosu-san gave them to us. Indeed? And where is he? Nishimura-san, is that important? Of course it is. Do you understand I'm discussing groundbreaking scientific discoveries with 2 high school students early in the morning in some mediocre cafe? What next? Will it turn out that this is in fact your work and I'm sitting in front of 2 future Nobel Prize winners? Kagome didn't know whether he had worked at Kobayashi Corporation before, but Nishimura surely looked very agitated. These papers, he leaned forward and covered his mouth with his hand, are valuable enough to kill for. Nishimura-san, you're exaggerating. With every remaining bit of composure, I was doing my best to look calm and speak normally, but deep inside of me was growing a feeling that we wouldn't get anything from him. At least not with this approach. Would you excuse us for a minute? I sat up and grabbed Kagome by the arm, so quickly that she didn't have time to object. We stepped aside. You'll have to tell him everything. Don't even think about it. You're the one who asked him to come, and now you're backing off? To be honest, I don't know him that well. What the hell are we doing here? Do you have a better plan? We were talking loudly enough to wake up the bartender, who had already wiped the dust from his eyes and was looking at us carefully from behind the bar. I think that if we're already here, we should see this to the end, I said in a quieter voice. Fine, but if something goes wrong, it's your fault. We turned to the table, but Nishimura didn't even seem to notice us, glued to the documents. Nishimura-san? Huh? He came to his senses and looked at me. So, what have you decided? Have you ever heard about the project? I decided to try and work up to it. First, Nishimura's eyes bulged, then he turned pale. The project? Of course, I should have realized immediately, with Ichinose-san and especially Akira-san's involvement. In his research, he seemed suspiciously familiar to me right away. You know what, children? I don't want anything to do with this, and I advise you the same. These words stood up and all but ran for the exit. Well, so much for our talk. I sighed and turned to Kagome. Her face was contorted into a grimace of impotent anger, and only the grinding of her teeth indicated she hadn't turned into a statue. But what she wanted? Told him everything? And what's the result? We decided together. I tried to offer an awkward excuse. Yeah, right. Fine, let's calm down and think. Kagome scoffed and turned away. Can't say we achieved nothing at all. What have we achieved? That he's about to go to the corporation, tell them everything. Did you see how scared he was just from the mention of the project? I don't think he's going anywhere near the Kobayashi Corporation's offices. Then he'll tell, I don't know, the police. Tell them what? That 2 school kids are skipping classes and reading some nerdy books in a cafe? The entirety of Japan has maybe a dozen people who can understand what's written here. Doesn't schmoz it. Think I'm wrong? Should we ask our physics teacher? I'm not suggesting anything. Kagome looked offended, or rather upset. Probably didn't actually believe I'd done something wrong, but her pride made her look for a scapegoat even here. Aren't you a bit too worried about these papers? Am I? The KGB has the originals of Ichinose-san's documents. I don't know how valuable they are to the Russians, but we can at least hope they wouldn't hunt us down over them. And why is that? Why would you kill someone for information you already know? But no one else can get to it? Kagome was right, and in trying to calm her down, I'd let my guard down, and ended up driving myself to a dead end. I was desperately pushing away the thought that there was no way out, but with every passing day I found it harder and harder to ignore the realization that the trap was about to shut close. My life had taken a wrong turn ever since Catherine came back. First that note, then the calls, then the corporation, the KGB, and now Kagome and her father's kidnapping. These documents that had to at least be the blueprints for a flying saucer. You disagree? I didn't know how to answer. Of course, I felt sorry for Kagome and genuinely wanted to help her. I had no personal stake in the situation. My father was long dead. I didn't suffer from an excessive patriotic sentiment, and didn't want to be exposed to unnecessary risks for any other reason. My parents' death most likely wasn't an accident, but I had enough sense to understand one thing. A high schooler could only take his revenge on the world in manga. Did Kagome understand that? Sometimes it feels like you're ready to do anything. Get my father back? Yes, I am. That's not exactly what I mean. I think the ends justify the means for you. Oh, don't get all fancy. What if the situation was the exact opposite, and you were in charge of Kobayashi Corporation? Wouldn't you also utilize any method to achieve your goals, like Kobayashi Jun does? Could've, would've, would've, should've. I'm not accusing you of anything. I just want to point out that sometimes it's wise to stop. You're saying this like I'm about to go bomb their office. Would you, given a chance? Agnes coughed huffily and turned her back to me. I could use some beer right about now. Silence dragged on for too long, and I couldn't come up with anything better. Go ahead. My permission stopped me better than any prohibition. What do you want from me? Absolutely nothing. And we wouldn't be sitting here. You can go. Just leave the documents. And to think that this morning she seemed to finally be warming up to me. Had it been just my imagination? I really want to help you, but you're just not letting me. If you intend to just charge ahead, alone against the world, then it's my duty to inform you that that's stupid. You know? You're right. How come I suddenly grew even angrier? You really don't need to be here. Sorry for dragging you into all this, Nico-san. I can handle my problems myself. You don't need to subject yourself to danger. Here we go again. Am I wrong? I found it hard to answer that question even to myself. Objectively, I couldn't say I had any good reason to risk my life for Iwamura. What about risking it for myself? Was it that important for me to find out the truth about my parents' death? Of course, Kagume's persistence could help there, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The price of the truth is often unreasonably high. And the easiest way to talk about that price is to sit in a comfortable chair in your office, poring over some philosophical or historical work. Meanwhile, I had to make a decision here and now. Ooh, big one, big one. This is the real huge one. Okay, let's save. I'm ready. Let's go. Well, since we're on the topic, you aren't the only one with a stake in this whole thing. My parents died because of the corporation, remember? I'm glad you remember. What's that supposed to mean? Her words got to me. Maybe finding out the truth about my parents wasn't the only reason I wanted to help her so much. It means I'm starting to think that you've got way too comfortable in your giant house, surrounded by cute girls who can't get enough of you for whatever reason. And with all this comfort, you've forgotten who your real enemies are. Her words, her facial expression, body language, and the imperceptible aura around her, all of it betrayed a burning desire for revenge. Was her father's kidnapping the only reason for it? I couldn't imagine a hatred like that coming about in just a couple of weeks. Once again, I'm ready to help you with finding your father, because it would also allow me to learn more about my past. But I'm not going to declare a holy war on capitalism as personified by the Kobayashi family. You can turn any serious topic into a joke. She suddenly smiled and relaxed, and I could feel the tension subside. So it's a deal? For today. Gotta start somewhere. By the way, do you want to eat? It's too early for lunch, but if it's your treat. Kagome responded calmly. Well, sure, I guess. I said reluctantly. Not that I didn't want to spend the money. Just didn't expect her to be so casual about it. The bartender appeared at our table as if by magic. What is thy desire? I kept picking at my teeth with a toothpick. Do you come here often? Occasionally. Just seems that you and the owner know each other well. I wouldn't say well, exactly. And he's not an acquaintance I'd be proud of. Why? Let's say he can be naggy and very pushy at times. A typical Russian trait? Are you saying I nag? Sometimes. Well, that's one complaint I never thought I'd hear. I guess it's just that nobody told you before. Maybe they haven't because I'm not actually naggy? Or because they didn't want to upset you? So what, you're the only one brave enough to tell it like it is? Sorry. Kagome smiled apologetically, cutely, and even childishly. Anyway, I gotta go. Thank you for the meal. By the way, can I take the documents? Yeah, sure. I replied, having realized I hadn't addressed it earlier. When she left, I ignored the naggy bartender, who immediately appeared at my table, paid the bill, and returned home to get some more sleep. The young body continues to function at maximum efficiency without any problems, even with only a few hours of sleep. But only if you have something to do the entire day. If you just plan to wait until evening and only sleep then, sleep deprivation is going to catch up to you very quickly. I decided not to wait for that, and, having returned home at about noon, immediately flopped onto the bed. I was woken up by another doorbell. Who's there this time? Well, this time the bells immediately sounded more polite. Putting on my trousers and shirt, inside out first, I dashed to the door. Strangely enough, whoever it was only rang once. Maybe it had been just my imagination. However, opening the door, I was faced with someone I absolutely hadn't expected to see. Ellie? Yes. Ellie. Hi. Were you sleeping? Sorry for waking you up. No, I mean I was, but no worries. I was noticeably anxious. But something was different about Ellie. Maybe it was the guitar hanging off her back. something happened? No, everything's fine. At least as fine as it can be. You want to come in? I wouldn't say no. Want some tea? No, thank you. He was carefully examining my kitchen. Don't worry, nobody's watching us here. Joked awkwardly. On the other hand, who could really know? Just that last time I didn't have much time to look around. Look around? Why? Are you going to buy my poor old home? Where would I get the money? I smiled idiotically and lowered my eyes. Grandpa's money is his money. I don't have much more in my pocket than any other schoolgirl. You just don't know the condition the house is in. That'll be more than enough. I'll think about it. Lee was fidgeting in place. Anyway, to what do I owe the honor? I haven't been to school today, so I was very embarrassed, as if trying to offer an excuse for doing something questionable. I'm becoming a little lady. So I decided to drop by because yesterday was awkward. I also feel guilty about what happened. After all, with my friends. Alright? Is that all you can say? In reality, I was quite surprised by her visit and the apology. I didn't really know how to behave in this sort of situation. What am I supposed to say? To be honest, I'm not very good at this whole manners thing. I'd be happy for a couple lessons. I really thought about it, then seemed to remember something. I got a couple lessons for you. You mentioned you play bass, right? I used to play at one point. To be closer to the truth. Never been great though. That's fine. For a while, we just kept silent. Well? What? Are you going to show me your bass? Hell yeah, bro. Let's go. Yeah, sure. I walked to the door to my room and froze in hesitation. Catherine and Himitsu were the only ones who'd been there before. No, that was stupid. That's why I was hiding something in there. Sorry for the mess. Kelly entered after me and looked around. I expected worse. Ah, there it is. He noticed the basin standing next to the bed. He immediately walked to it, carefully examined, and then took it in her hands. Not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, you know, I wanted to learn how to play a proper guitar on some piece of wood. Uh-huh. Put her foot on the amplifier. She just had the bass in her hands and played a fairly simple melody. It's out of tune. Wait a bit. She only needed half a minute to make the bass sound right again. Man, I can't do that. It's not difficult. Just need to remember how one string should sound and then tune the rest to it. You know, when someone says it's not difficult, that's the first tell it's going to be difficult. She smiled and handed the bass over to me. Can't achieve anything without practice. Think I could play guitar from the day I was born? Of course not, but people are different in terms of talent. Some are just naturals. Well, let's see about that. What? Ellie ran out and in a couple of seconds returned with a guitar. Ah, right. Give it to me. She unceremoniously grabbed the bass out of my hands, sat on the bed and started playing. You memorized it? Of course not. I replied with indignation. And I'll go another time, slower. The second time really did make the melody more understandable. What is that? One of my new songs. Ellie took her guitar out of its case. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Started playing, and I just sat and looked at her. Well? What? Fine. When I snap my fingers, like this, start playing what I showed you. You know, there's a Russian fairy tale about a donkey, a goat, a monkey, and a bear. Okay, I want to hear about this. I can't find it, bro. What the fuck? Bro, where is it? Oh, I found it. Quartet by Ivan Krylov. Well, I hope for an explanation about like what is it? What is it about? But okay. I don't know. Ellie interrupted me patiently. So, in the end it goes something like this. And you, my friends, no matter your positions, will never be musicians. That sounds like the German fairy tale, I know. It wasn't quite like that. Slowly stolen. You're giving up without even trying. Just realistically evaluating my skill based on my prior experience. Those who do nothing make no mistakes? That's not the same thing. Why? I think it suits you well. You're so afraid that somebody will think something wrong about you that you prefer not to try at all. I don't care about... But I felt a sting of pain as your words hit on something deep inside. You want it that much? Fine. Right. Song actually turned out to be relatively simple. But when you haven't held a bass in your hands in many years, everything is difficult. We had to start over and over again, because I would either forget my part or play totally off rhythm. And they carefully and patiently showed me how to play correctly, over and over again. I'd never have thought she could remain so effortlessly calm. While I wanted to smash my head against the bass, Ellie kept repeating the same thing again and again. And finally, I got it. One time, I played it correctly. Woohoo! I shouted after picking the string for the last time. See? And you were afraid. But it wasn't easy. Well, how do you feel now? How do I feel? I repeated, and with a great deal of surprise, noticed that my mood was indeed much better and I felt an unusual influx of energy and positivity. Fine, you won. What did I tell you? By the way, I wanted to ask you. Yeah? I thought you were going to sing today. No, not today. Suddenly grew embarrassed and quickly put the guitar back in its case. The lyrics aren't finished yet. Ah, I see. I drawled. An awkward silence hung in the room. You know, actually, I came to tell you that I'm ready to help you. Well, not both of you, just you. I don't want to have anything to do with that girl. Alright, got it. You don't need to talk to her at all. But I can't promise anything. Grandpa said I shouldn't get involved in all this. And he's probably right, but... But what? Nothing. Suddenly I got angry. I told you I'll help, so I will. I've got to go now. I saw her to the door, closed it behind her, and kept standing in the hallway, staring right in front of me. Help, huh? I was supposed to be happy, but there was something about this entire situation that made me anxious. The rest of the day was surprisingly peaceful, for the first time in a while. I kept catching myself throwing occasional glances at Himitsu's house. I guess I wanted to complete the overall idyllic piece with a tasty dinner, familiar face, and a normal conversation about nothing. Habits that take years to form don't die in a day, no matter how inappropriate they might seem under new circumstances. I was walking around the house like a tiger in a cage, unable to find anything to do. Books couldn't hold my attention longer than a minute. All the TV shows seemed boring, and cleaning or washing clothes pointless. Just waiting for something is hard enough, but it's even harder when you don't know what you're waiting for. In Japan, prisoners sentenced to death only learn they are about to die the morning of their execution. Until then, they can spend years and even decades in ignorance. But Himitsu never came, and by night I was completely exhausted by all the pointless flailing about. My bed took me in its embrace, covered me with a warm blanket, its soft pillow whispering a kind lullaby. Sleep came at once. The awakening was just as quick. I jerked up because of the loud sounds coming from the yard. The sound of broken glass banging against the wall, and the stomping of someone running away. It took some time for me to come to my senses after such short sleep, and realized I hadn't just imagined all that. I sat up and tried to listen in. The night silence of our quiet district was all that rang out in my room. It had been just my imagination after all. With effort, I got up and sneaked into the kitchen. Everything was as I had left it there, and no one else was inside. I spent a long time hesitating before the front door, but I finally threw it open and jumped outside. There was no one there either. I noticed that the glass of the window next to the door was broken. There was an insulting Japanese character sloppily painted on the door. Obviously, neither the KGB nor the corporation would do something this dumb. It must have been Ellie's friends. At first glance, it was so stupid I didn't even know how to react. Some cut my nose to spite my face. What? Some cut my nose to spite my face sort of shit. Before the paint would would dry completely, I started cleaning away the obscene message, which took me a good hour. Unfortunately, I didn't have a spare for the broken window, so I had to board the resulting hole somehow. Until better times. If they would ever come. That act of vandalism amused me more than frightened me. I just imagined myself being in the shoes of anyone in their posse. All of their problems were about fighting for a spot in the local social hierarchy. Their purpose in life was to maximize their pleasure, not just getting nice experiences, but turning simple gratification into a cult. Sex, alcohol, maybe even drugs. Quarreling with their kind and bullying the weak. Their primitive existence, not too different from that of a pack of hyenas, might have seemed attractive to me some time ago. But now I was facing more important problems. Problems that probably aren't meant to be solved by your average school student. It was already 2 o'clock. I was sitting in the kitchen looking into the darkness of my home. But the lights were on. As if expecting a monster jump at me out of a far corner. Almost the whole day had been spent in expectation of disaster. I didn't manage to get any proper sleep, and now I couldn't fall asleep again. Was I really the hero of my own novel? Visual novel. Yes. Suddenly, I felt unbearably sad and lonely. A feeling when you realize you can't handle the difficulties that came crashing down upon you. I never envied anyone in my life. Or at least, I never wanted to live someone else's life. Probably because deep inside I knew that in addition in everything I thought I wanted from them, I'd get all sorts of problems I couldn't see from outside. But now, it felt excruciatingly painful that some people were just living their lives, going to school, then spending time with friends. Their life could seem boring and monotonous, but at the same time, they didn't have to sit like this in the middle of the night and wait for their enemies to come for them. They didn't jump at every ring of the doorbell, and they weren't looking for a KGB agent in every face. And even if they didn't have a person they loved, they were also free of all that endless nerve-wracking tied to it. It's better to be alone than with someone random, isn't it? I thought that under different circumstances, I'd be with Himitsu now. That didn't seem like a bad deal to me. It also felt like it was written on a page torn out of a different book. Even its format didn't match the story of my life. There was no way I could glue it in somehow. Can your fate really be changed so radically all at once? What's that fate anyway? Or what's fate anyway? Does it even exist? The chain of random events, the decisions of people I knew very poorly or didn't know at all, seemed to matter more in the end than my own actions. If Catherine hadn't come back. If I hadn't met Kagome and Ellie. If the not-so-sane KGB major hadn't come up with the idea to try and pry out government secrets out of an innocent school kid. If. In the end, how is fate, the story of your life written before your birth, fundamentally different from a sequence of random events? Especially if you have no way to influence it either way. Once my exhaustion reached an unbearable level and I started blacking out, I finally managed to fall asleep. But in any case, the very thought I wasn't in control of my own life disgusted me. I woke up early in the morning, still tired and sleepy, but quickly realized I wouldn't be able to fall asleep again. It was getting worse and worse by the day. While I couldn't do a single thing to Kobayashi Corporation, I could at least handle a gang of rowdy teenagers. At least I could try. Long before class started, I was standing at the school gate waiting for Asakura and Kawashima. Why them? I was absolutely sure that the others lacked the brains to come up with anything like that themselves. There was no point dealing with pawns. A car brought Asakura to school pretty early. There was a good hour left before classes started. I had to hide behind the fence in order to avoid the driver's attention. When the car drove away, I approached Asakura. We need to talk about yesterday. You can't just jump at people like that. She immediately responded with indignation. Yes, about that too. I don't know what you're talking about. The girl scoffed and turned away, not even pretending to be surprised. I'm talking about you breaking my window yesterday and smearing my door with paint. I spent half the night cleaning it. What made you think it's us? Sarah asked defiantly. I've got cameras in the yard. Cameras? That scared her. Yes, cameras. Anyway, I know nothing about this. I have to go. Grabbed her by the arm. Oh no, you're not going anywhere. We'll stand here together and wait for the others. Maybe my threat worked, or maybe she fell for the bluff about the cameras. Either way, Sakura stopped resisting. 10 minutes later, Kawashima appeared. Good morning. We've been waiting for you. I greeted her in an artificially friendly voice. What's going on here? He's crazy. He's accusing us of some nonsense. I have no idea who wrote that on his door. I never said there was something written on it. Oh. Got even more flustered. Anyway, that's exactly the case. I continued. Your son yesterday was caught on camera. Camera? Kawashima smirked maliciously. Seemed like she wasn't as gullible as her friend. And where can we see the tape? We watched it together at the police station. Wonderful. We'll be looking forward to a subpoena. Miku, let's go. There's no point listening to this imbecile. Said to Asakura. I realized that holding two girls in place would be at least twice as difficult. But I was saved by Ali, who happened to come to school just on time. Miku? Mari? I turned around and before they had a chance to run away, blurted out. Everyone's finally here. We've just been waiting for you. I thought you'd be interested to know what your friends do on weeknights. Ellie threw a questioning look, first at me, then at the girls. They painted my door yesterday and broke a window. Is that true? Of course not. Don't listen to him. I have evidence. Yeah, camera recordings. We heard that already. He smirked. To be honest, I had kind of lost confidence in that trick. What camera? Still, Ellie was surprised. The cameras that record everything happening in my yard. I've already told you. We'll be waiting for a call from the police. Until then. Okay, so what were you doing yesterday night? Why the hell would I tell you? You flared up. A guilty mind is never at ease. Mari? What, Ellie? Am I supposed to just stand and listen when I'm accused of some bullshit? If it would have been the first time. You can say all you want, but you can't prove anything. I don't need to. I looked at Ellie defiantly, letting everyone know that the only opinion that mattered here was hers. She responded by shamefully lowering her eyes. The battle seemed lost. The player I never would have expected to enter the game. Kagome. The way we were standing made it difficult for others to walk past us, but she still tried to slip by. Uh-huh, there you are. Wait, why did I drag Kagome into this? Kagome stopped and gave me a wary look. Are you going to keep claiming you're innocent? That you're not bullying Iwamura? Can you make up your mind? First we were window breakers, now bullies. They're all links in a chain. Come on, show them. Why did I do this, bro? This was so dumb. This is so dumb, bro. Why did it... I turned to Kagome, but as I got closer, I could see her black eye was no longer visible. Ninko-san, I don't want to get involved in this, she said quietly. So quietly that I barely heard her. Why are you mumbling there? Speak up. Asakura, having stood quietly before, entered the conversation. Really? This is what I've been talking about. What, am I supposed to just stand and listen while this beggar mumbles under her breath? What if it's about me? You think you're untouchable or something? Well, we certainly have more rights than... You're not going to compare us to... Miku, please be quiet. Mari-chan. You can keep playing the hero, just remember that it's going to end badly for you. Is that a threat? It's a warning. See, listen to this. I addressed Ellie. To be honest, guys, I don't understand what's going on. What's there to understand? Yesterday, they committed a terror attack on my house. Terror attack? Gosh, my girl. But never mind. As I was saying, they're constantly bullying Iwan. Bro, you can't drag her into this, bro. That's so... Oh my god. I hate this man. Like, I hate him, and then I started to, like, warm up a bit to him, and then I hate him again. Kagome kept standing motionlessly, like a statue, carefully examining the cracks in the pavement at her feet. Why aren't you saying anything? I asked angrily. I've got nothing to say. God, bro, why are you doing this? Ugh. Oh, you've got nothing to say. So I'm the one who's supposed to protect you. Somehow you... Oh my god, bro, you can't... Somehow you're not so shy with me. You see, Ellie, she's got no problem with us. Right? Sakura came closer to Kagome. You've got no problems with us, right? That's in a challenging tone. Ooh! And immediately got a dude slap in the face. Okay. It all happened as if in slow motion. Kawashima and Ellie froze. They didn't know how to react either. If they had been guys, I wouldn't have been so surprised. Kagome, ready to defend herself like that. Kagome, who stubbornly kept quiet all the time. Ow! Asakura said after a sizable pause. See, Ellie, they're both crazy. Kawashima jumped to her friend, took her by the shoulder and took her as far as possible from us. Kagome lowered her head again and looked exactly as she had a minute ago. I don't know what really happened, but after that, you can solve your problems yourself, Ellie said and ran after her friends. What the hell was that? She wanted me to stand up for myself, and I did. They replied roughly and headed for school. At first, I wanted to run after her, grab her by the arm, stop, and shout. Why would you do that, bro? Why? But then I realized it wasn't point. It wouldn't have been pointing. It would have been the worst idea ever. Why would you do? Oh my god! I hate this man. This man is. Oh my god, bro. Yeah, bring Semyon back. That was his name, right? From the first game. Please, he wasn't so bad. In the end, I was the one who created this full-time mixture to provoke this conflict. Yeah, like a fucking idiot, bro. It was strange, even, that it only ended with a slap and not murder. I followed Kagome with my eyes, waited for her to go inside and change her shoes, and only then walked to the school building. However, Ellie was waiting for me there, hiding behind a locker. Oh, that was so funny. Can I replay that animation, please? Can I? Please, bro. I need to replay that animation. Please. Yes. That's so funny, bro. Please. Again. Can I do it like this, please? I stopped and she just shook her head admonishingly. Wait. Oh, it doesn't play. It only plays on the transition from this to the other one. That is meme material like there. Right there. Again. I love that. Is a Sakura alright? She'll live for now. I didn't mean that it was that serious. First a slap, then what? Don't exaggerate. Besides, Kagome had her reasons. Honestly, I didn't completely believe that myself. What do you mean, bro? Bro, you... Oh my god, bro, you're such an idiot. Sure, I could cut her some slack for being bullied up to that point, but doing something like that in public would only make things worse. No, dumbass, you made things worse. You're a fucking idiot, bro. An outside observer, even knowing the truth, would probably think, sure, those girls were in the wrong, but just look at her. No, no one would think that. No one with right in the head would think that. If they knew she was being bullied, no one that is sane and can think for themselves would think that. Literally no one, bro. Often the handsome criminal earns more sympathy than his ugly victim. Yeah, that is true. But again, I'm talking about people that can actually think logically. No one would think that. Fine, I'm not justifying her actions. That's obviously no way to behave. But her stunt is no reason to ignore what is happening. I see you're ready to forgive her. That does make one think, you know. Here we go again. I rolled my eyes inside. I, for one, have no intention to talk to that lunatic anymore. You do understand that I'll keep picking on you Amara, if we don't do anything, right? Also, what about the paint on my door? Well, if you have the recording from the camera, Ellie said somehow unsurely. I wasn't sure what was strongest in her words, the reproach, the surprise, or the irony. I don't have any cameras, why would I? But you have to believe me, why would I lie? Do I look like I'd frame someone just to prove I'm right? Gave it a moment's thought. I guess not. Think about it, what can I do? Even if you're right, I'm not saying I believe you, but let's just assume. Even if you're right, what do you want from me? Am I supposed to turn them into the police? I don't know, you could at least talk to them. So you're a big fan of talking yourself. You can say the same about Yuri or Murato. Prefer jumping straight into action. Jesus, why are you so fixated on her? But it was clear that to everyone else, Kagome was something like the old woman from Crime and Punishment. Wait, I read Crime and Punishment. Didn't I? Yes, I did. Who's the old woman? Crime and Punishment follows the mental anguish and moral dilemmas of Rodion Raskolnikov, an impoverished ex-student in St. Petersburg who plans to kill an unscrupulous pawnbroker, an old woman who stores money and valuable objects in her flat. Yes, he kills her. He theorized that with the money he could liberate himself from poverty and go on to perform great deeds, and seeks to convince himself that certain crimes are justifiable. They are committed in order to remove obstacles to the higher goals of extraordinary men. Once the deed is done, however, he finds that reality is far more complicated. Yeah, I don't really remember details about it, because my memory is dog shit. So, yeah. Although it was unlikely that Kawashima and her gang had asked themselves the same questions Raskolnikov did, but even from a random observer's viewpoint, Iwamura evoked very little sympathy. Especially if that observer was Ellie, who kind of had a very high opinion of Kagome even prior to that. Because you're constantly protecting her. For what? So, nothing. Oh, she's jealous, okay. You're embarrassed first, then angry. Don't you understand? However, I really thought about Kagome. Ellie expected an answer immediately. Uh-oh. This is why I choose between Kagome and Ellie? Bro, Ellie is a lot nicer than Kagome. Like, she was first introduced as like a tsundere character, and she kind of has some semblance, but she's very clearly not. Like, she's a lot more dare than Sun, let's be honest here. She's pretty nice, actually, when she's honest. I don't really know what I should be agreeing with Ellie on here. I can't go back. I'm just gonna agree to see what exactly I'm agreeing with. That I'm being overprotective, maybe? Let's see. What does my opinion matter? Even if I agree with you, that's not the way to treat someone. You do nothing to deserve it. Okay, I like this answer. Imagine yourself in Iwamurash. Okay, I like this. Okay, and what would have been the other? Okay. They seem kind of the same. I don't know what to think here. Except this one is a bit more aggressive. So I'll go with the first one. Okay, you know, you can imagine being in anyone's shoes. Even a starving African child. It's all easier than living in your own. Somehow, her words got to me. Easy for you to say. Yes, and precisely because it's easy for me to say, I'll never act like that and I won't tolerate it in other people. I'll talk to Miku. Maybe she should tell the teachers everything. You absolutely shouldn't do that. Why is it? Okay, so it's the same. Just the first part was a bit different. Because you girls would have to do something insane for the teacher to pay attention to it and take Kagume's side. But I was afraid to say that out loud. Yomamuro's got enough problems already. And why should we solve her problems? Nobody's... Nick, you seem like a reasonable person. Why do you hang around this hysterical girl? I can only think of one explanation. Oh, stop. Her mouth formed into a wicked smile. I couldn't tell Ellie I expected her grandfather's company to be behind the death of my parents, or that these days I was getting regular visits from the KGB. Kagome and I were allies by necessity. You don't have to like your allies. You just have to be helpful. I'd missed the moment when things became so serious. A week or so ago, I had arbitrarily decided to follow my unsociable class representative, and this is where it brought me. You can think whatever you want. I pretended to be offended. It's a terrible pity you're not seeing what a viper you have at your chest. Sure, I didn't know Kagome that well, but Ellie didn't know her at all. Fine, I need to go to class. I hope you'll draw the right conclusions. Same to you. I responded briefly and waited for her to go up the stairs. Well, the situation was unpleasant, no matter how you look at it. As if the corporation, the KGB, and Catherine weren't enough of a headache, now there was this. I'd started a pointless fight with the school's elite with no chance of winning it. Ellie was clearly right about one thing. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes is a stupid idea. Just a week ago, I wouldn't have even thought of any of this. What changed? Well, it was pretty obvious. Sure, I needed to talk with Kagome, but what would it do? I didn't want to repeat the same thing for the 100th time and had no other way to persuade her. Besides, I still didn't quite know what I thought about what she's done. Maybe in a different situation, in a world of absolute equality, I would have punched as a girl long before Kagome. I was the fan of most norms, rules, and laws, but when I ended up looking down the barrel of the gun, I started seriously considering their necessity. Asakura clearly knew she was invincible within the given quasi-social institute, our school. She hadn't thought someone could fight back, especially so violently. Under different circumstances, it would have probably been much more polite, while still staying within the unspoken accepted rules of this community. Kagome, meanwhile, ended up not giving a shit about said unspoken rules. I wonder why she hadn't been pushed back earlier. In the end, I came to the conclusion that I couldn't blame Kagome despite the thoughtlessness of her actions, and that we would likely have to take care of their consequences together. Yes. Okay, at least you come to the right conclusions, sometimes. When I entered the classroom, I could feel the air almost ring with tension. Asakura's desk was empty, and the exclusion zone seemed to have formed around Kagome. The girls were whispering about something, gathered together in the corner of the classroom, while the guys were behaving like normal. Not all of them, though. As soon as I sat down, Michael and Kyosuke approached me. Nick, we heard what happened at the gate. We were speaking quietly, but everybody was trying not to look at us anyway. You have my most decisive greetings, friends. I explained loudly to demonstrate that I wasn't going to follow those stupid rules, unlike the others. You should be quiet. Kyosuke hissed at me. Don't try to shut my mouth. I'm not a criminal, and people have no reason to keep quiet and look away when they see me. No, or not. You got yourself into a nasty situation. And it's been exaggerated beyond measure by Asakura. Michael said reasonably. I sighed and looked up to him. My friend was calm as usual. I, on the other hand, was fed up with all this injustice. Having more acquaintances and influence, Asakura could easily present the facts in the way most convenient for her, hence distorting the truth. On the other hand, who was I to talk about the truth? Our perception of events is formed by a plethora of factors and looks nothing like a static moment captured in a photograph. I just don't want to be wrongly accused. Nobody's accusing you of anything yet. Exactly, yet. Nick, we've talked about this already. Yosuke started apologetically. And I thought I was clear last time. I snapped at him and turned away. I didn't want to be reprimanded for nothing again. But Nick, our silence won't change anything. Fine. So what do you think I did wrong? How about for a start you let me tell you what really happened? It's like this. Asakura and Co painted on my door yesterday and broke a window. Except Asakura says you did it yourself to accuse her. Really? Then she made a nimble preemptive strike too. It's always better to be the first to admit the existence of the accusation. Then there's no risk of being caught off guard later on. Why would I do that? Who do you believe? Nick, but why would they do something like that? After all, at least some of my friends aren't some street thugs. Yeah? What's the difference? He didn't reply, and neither did Michael. I wasn't expecting this from you guys. We believe you, but what does it change? You keep escalating this pointless conflict, and for what? For what? I repeated, thinking it over. Of course, in the given situation I was already protecting myself from their attacks. But that wasn't how it started. If it hadn't been for Kagome, I wouldn't have had any problem with them at all. But then, I'd been protecting her and it all went from there? But why would I? Just because both of us had issues with Kobayashi Corporation? You can't win anyway. You do realize an accusation without evidence is about as much of an offense as what you said they've done, right? If you can prove that they really did it... Oh, come on. Everyone knows nobody would try to accuse them without a reason. Are you sure about that? In all honesty, I wasn't sure about anything at this point. It had always seemed to me that there was some sort of higher justice that doesn't have to be constantly proven to people. Maybe it did exist in the USSR. Or maybe I just feel like that because I had been a child there. No, there's no justice in the USSR, bro, come on. But the older I got, the more convinced I was getting that, in the end, those with the most rights end up as those in the right. Okay, and what do you think I should do? Keep quiet and sit still, hoping I'll get lucky and won't get hurt? Depends on what you want. What do I want? Michael stared at me unblinkingly, but said nothing. If Iwamura-san is really that important to you, why do I need a personal interest to stand for justice? I exclaimed, but nobody even looked in my direction. Because we're not in an anime or manga. Bro, you're the last person I want to hear something like that from. But even if Kyosuke was saying that I was detached from reality, something was definitely wrong. But he's essentially right, Nick. Right or not, why am I never right? Once again, I received no answer. Fine, so what do you suggest I do? We're ready to support you, but only if you're confident about what you're doing. Confident about what? You know what I mean. Suddenly, I didn't even want to ask him again. So, are you? How much of an effect did how Kagome was treated at school have on our joint venture? Or was that not the only thing I was worried about? I am sure, exercise caution. I'm sure about what, big bro? Yes, I am. Otherwise, why would I do all that? Who knows with you? Kyosuke said with a good-natured smile. Sakura returned to the classroom right before the bell rang out, didn't even glance at me. Kagome was sitting with an even more absent-minded look to her than usual. Class went surprisingly peacefully, and since I didn't want to make the conflict any worse, I tried to attract as little attention as possible. After cooling down a bit, I realized that Kyosuke and Michael were right, in essence if not in the final details. If you decide to oppose the system, at least be smart about it. Gathering everyone involved in the schoolyard for a showdown in front of the entire school clearly wasn't the best decision. And now I had to deal with the consequences. Kagome hadn't been in favor with the school's upper echelons even before that, but now things could turn into a real witch hunt against her. At the same time, I realized that Asakura and Co would need some time to recover from the shock, and more importantly, convince Ellie that they hadn't done anything wrong. At the moment, she was the judge and the jury. By retaliating right away, it would only confirm that I was right. At the very least, that meant I had some time to collect my thoughts, regroup, and think of an adequate defense for facing them next time. And there would be a next time, that I was sure of. When class was over and the bell rang for the last time, Kagome packed her things and walked out of the classroom so quickly that I didn't even have time to do anything. Yes, I still believe that Asakura and Kawashima wouldn't try to take revenge on the heels of this morning's scene, but better safe than sorry. Catching Kyosuke's challenging look, I ran after Kagome. Changed her shoes pretty quickly too, not leaving me enough time even to tie my laces. I ran into the schoolyard and immediately heard a familiar voice. Hey, what's the hurry? I turned around and saw Ellie, who was standing in the same place behind the locker as this morning. Well, powerlessly watched as Kagome disappeared behind the school fence. Don't worry about her. Everything's going to be fine. I've talked to the girls. You talked? About what? I probably had a very silly look on my face because Ellie suddenly smiled. You asked me yourself, don't you remember? Yeah, of course. I just didn't think you believed me. Let's take a walk? Sure. We walked out the gate and, accompanied by the shocked looks of the other students, went in the direction away from the station that Kagome must have been in such a rush to get to. When the school was left far behind, Ellie finally stopped. Won't your bodyguards be worried? They are my nannies. She huffed, but immediately brought a serious look back to her face. It's a shame that you take me for a common, stupid rich girl. I don't. To be honest, I hadn't prepared for this conversation, so I didn't know how to react. I can play music, rock music, but only because my grandfather silently allows it. Something like a game. I behave well and try not to get involved in anything too nasty, and he pretends nothing's going on. What do you think will happen if I break this truce? I don't know, but what does it have to do with... Point is, I have to keep up appearances in public. Ellie continued as if not noticing me. So wait, I'll do a save here. Because I want to see if I chose the other thing. Would I have gone for Kagome? I'm sure, yeah. Oh no, it's the exact same. Okay, interesting. Ellie continued as if not noticing me. I'm not the one who makes the rules, but it's not in my interest to break them. So what will happen if you tell your friends that their behavior is, let's say, inappropriate? I asked timidly. At the very least, they won't understand me. That's for starters. And then, even the leader of a pride can't force lions to become vegetarians. What a poetic metaphor. I made a stupid remark, but she ignored me again. Of course, I'm sympathetic for your friend, like any normal person would be. And then for a moment, Ellie returned to her usual persona of a spoiler girl someone. Except not for her personally, for an abstract individual in her situation. We didn't even know each other a week ago. I was looking at her and couldn't understand who was standing before me. A normal high schooler like myself, the heir to the Kobayashi Empire, leader of a gang of teenagers, or the vocalist of a rock band. Perhaps all of them at once were someone else entirely. There was so much unfamiliar about Ellie's life to me. I couldn't even imagine what she was thinking about or what she was feeling. If I, Himitsu Kagome, even Catherine were basic substances, it was a chemical compound with an incomprehensible name. The more convinced of it I became, the more guilty I felt about the conclusion I jumped to after the incident at the swimming pool. Honestly, I'm not the one to be giving you advice here. Yes, I want to protect Iwamura because I believe it's the right thing to do. But you're the only one who knows all the circumstances of your life. I appreciate it. Gifted me with a disarming smile. But I haven't done much. I only asked them not to give any reason for new accusations for now. I don't know how long that'll last. Suddenly, Ellie no longer looked like the confident queen of the school, but just a normal girl who was bound unfairly by the laws of social interaction, same as I was. Probably even more, much more. At least I could allow myself to be an outcast and not give a damn about anyone or anything. Only by being an elusive Joe. Nobody wanted to catch. What is an elusive Joe? Where does it come from? The elusive or uncatchable Joe is a character from an old Russian joke. A cowboy who makes a whole lot of noise and commotion, yet never gets caught because nobody cares enough to even try. In my daily life, the concept of honor only exists in chivalric novels. But for a girl living in a golden cage from birth, honor was above everything. At least that's how Kobayashi Jun must have raised Ellie. That's already a lot. But what are you going to do next? Okay, this is important. Yvonne doesn't deserve this kind of treatment. If it's in my power to defend her, I will. Is that so? He frowned. Yeah, I know it sounds like a lazy answer. I'm not the most serious person in the world either. I tried to play it off because I really didn't know what I was going to do next. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Didn't go the way I wanted to. Well, I haven't thought about that yet. I'm installing issues as they come. True. That's so. She frowned. Me at the moment was just empty babble. But where did this question come from? Wait, let me see. Oh yeah, okay, it's true. I didn't think about it yet. I don't have any plans to become a white knight or anything. Maybe your friend would be better transferring to another school. Lee said seriously. There's only half a year left before graduation. Nick, don't you understand that nobody will help you find windmills? Not me, not anyone else. Why me? Because up until now, Yuamura had somehow been around for 2.5 years without getting into trouble. The events of the last 2 weeks quickly came to mind. Indeed, it seemed not to have started with Catherine's return, but the moment I stood up for KGB at the school gate. So it's all my fault? I'm not blaming you or anything, but think about it. She lowered her eyes, as if ashamed of her own bravery, but what she said was enough to throw me off balance. I don't know how to respond to that. Fine, don't say anything then. Put on her toes, whirled around, walked to me, smiled, and hooked her arm around mine. We have a rehearsal today. Would you like to watch? Me? Oh, that was seriously strange. Are you sure that, considering the circumstances, it's appropriate? Besides, I don't know anybody from the band. I immediately remembered that weird keyboardist in sunglasses. Although, I guess I do. Me? You aren't a complete stranger then. In another situation, I would have jumped at the opportunity to distract myself and see something new. But now, with the Catherine question resolved in the KGB, and I brought Kagami's troubles to a boiling point. On the other hand, people always postpone chances until later. I think now isn't the right time, that they have more important things to handle first. And they'll get to them first thing. If I had had the chest from missed opportunities at home, it would have been bursting by the time I turned 18. You insist? My parents often chastise me for wanting immediate results from minimum effort. But thinking about it, isn't that attitude caused by failures inevitable in the process of maturing? For many people, the last thing they ever achieve by applying continuous effort over a span of time is a school diploma. What follows is a job with no prospects that soon becomes another vital habit, like eating. Maybe someone among them wanted to become a pianist before realizing they have no talent. Another one always dreamed of scoring a goal at the World Championship, but was too sickly for it. Even a third person's desire to get into a technical college was never going to happen, since they didn't have the ability for the hard sciences. And, after all that, you hear this pointless cliche that you didn't try hard enough. Each got according to his needs. There wouldn't be anyone to work in factories and grow rice. Objectively, only the rare few achieve success, while the conscientious and the diligent are at every corner. Especially here, in Japan, the centuries-old cult of hard work. While we were on our way to the rehearsal studio, I kept behind Ellie, staring at her back and tried to imagine her practicing the guitar, working her fingers bloody until she learned another riff. I tried, and just couldn't do it. It was much easier to imagine Ellie playing like a virtuoso only an hour after picking up a guitar. I worked myself up so much I actually started feeling uncomfortable around her. You know, here we are. She turned around and interrupted me merrily. The studio, or rep base, as it be called in Russian, looked very normal. I've been to places like this once or twice in my life. Same. The main difference was that the equipment here was significantly more expensive than what I had used. And it looks a lot cleaner than where I've been. It looks like we're early. But that's fine. Wanna rehearse a bit? I don't really know. I felt very uncomfortable. The sensation growing stronger every minute. Come on, well there's nobody here. Alright. Then he walked to the stand with the guitars and picked out one of the basses. Here you are. I carefully examined the guitar. Are you sure? Why? I don't think our bass player would mind. Actually, I meant its price. The guitar seemed 5 times more expensive than the one I had at home. Well, if you say so. I played the melody we'd been rehearsing the day before a few times, and to my surprise, I noticed I was doing much better. Damn, Elle, you must have read our minds. When we finished, I turned around and saw the drummer and the second guitar standing in the doorway. Poor guys aren't very detailed. Actually, it would be more correct to call him the first one since Ellie was playing the rhythm. Hi guys, we're... got a bit embarrassed. I automatically stood up and put the bass away. Not bad at all, but you need to work with the metronome more often. Not really... But I still don't get it. How did you find out? Find out what? Yamada's leaving the band? Yamada is what? Wait, so you didn't know? Of course I didn't. She's crying, bro. And who's he? Both of them stared at me in surprise. He goes to the same school. I just invited him to the rehearsal. I see. The drummer and the guitarist appeared to be a couple years older than us. They generally didn't look much like rock musicians. Anyway, what are our manners? My name's Ishida. I'm aiming to become a professional musician. Just a part-timer for now. He shook my hand firmly. Quite a nice guy. Mitsuyoshi. I study arts. The drummer introduced himself briefly. Nick. I'm a high school student. Mumbled idiotically. Again, in an unfamiliar situation, my confidence disappeared without a trace. It's easy to be prepared for everything when absolutely nothing new happens in your life. Prepared only in name. Though there might have been more to it. What happened to Yamada? Only that's in a formidable voice. Hell, don't say it like it's our fault. Not blaming anybody, but we have a concert soon. An important one, you know that. Yamada said that his parents had made him move to Kyoto with them. How long? Forever. But Kyoto isn't that far, he could... How do you imagine that? I should ask, sadly. It's almost 500 kilometers. Still studying at school too. Ellie sighed heavily and didn't reply. I mean, he could have warned us in advance. Exactly, you don't just move all of a sudden. Yamada said he was hoping to stay here until the end. And of course, he didn't think about this. I would also need time to find and train a new bassist. The door opened and Zed Fields, the keyboardist, entered the room, in his shining glasses. Nobody was expecting me, yet here I am. Actually, everybody was expecting you. We have a rehearsal today. Awkward silence descended upon us, but the weird guy in glasses didn't seem to be embarrassed in the slightest. Nick? Meet Tokyo Rider. Tokyo Rider? Yes, let's call him that. But I'm a free rider. Actually, we know each other a little. I knew that our meeting wasn't just a coincidence. Whatever you say. Tokyo Rider, let's go. Alright, back to Yamada. Eddie looked seriously upset. We can always just record his part. I'll never perform with a recording, especially on such an important day. And I don't know what to do. I know someone in a university band. Well, they play funk actually, and I wouldn't say that. What's wrong with him? Tokyo Rider interrupted him and pointed at me. Eh? The others stared at me like they just found Paul McCartney in their studio or something. I'm not even a bass player. I just tried it a couple of times. And I thought you were pretty alright. You weren't even here. I was standing behind the door. Why? I have nothing against him, but he doesn't know the material. 5 songs. Anyone can learn 5 songs. Hey, wait. We can simplify some bass parts. And he said thoughtfully. We're choosing between that and performing without a bass at all. I'm sure he can handle it. I mean, I won't want to work with someone so inexperienced in rhythm, but... Would you wait a second? I shouted and Zed Fields went silent. Don't you want to talk about it with me first? Nick, we're just discussing our options. Nobody's forcing you if you don't want to. I just can't believe this is really happening. Catherine, Kobayashi Corporation, the KGB, Kagome, now they were asking me to play bass for the Zed Fields. Was it all a dream? I forgot to even think about all my clearly more important problems. If you hesitate less and rehearse more, it'll all be fine. I don't really have much time to rehearse. What are you so busy with? Ellie asked with a shade of sarcasm. What am I busy with? Apparently, with staying at home and working myself out imagining one disaster after another. Guys, I need to think this through. I finally managed to say. We'll need the answer no later than Monday. But you can start learning the songs now. Give me a pile of crumpled music sheets. Are you aware I have no idea how to read music? You'll figure it out. Well, since we're all here anyway, you should have handed me the bass I'd been torturing 5 minutes ago. Even if I ended up turning down their offer, I was honored to get to play with Dead Fields. Even if it was only a rehearsal. Playing together with Ellie turned out to be much easier. Just a minute into it, I got so nervous that I started missing the rhythm and picking the wrong frets. However, nobody scolded or criticized me. Quite the opposite. Everybody tried to encourage me and show me how to play the piece correctly. By the end of the rehearsal, I'd even managed to do a more or less okay, at least in my opinion, job of playing my bit. Bro, rock people, the nicest people ever. Okay, of course, I'm generalizing, but still, it's true. So how was it? Fantastic, guys, just fantastic. I blurted out, wiping my forehead. I think you did pretty well too, so if you want, I still need to think about it. Alright. I said a warm goodbye to everyone and walked outside, leaving the musicians to collect their instruments. I couldn't get a dumb smile off of my face the entire way back home. I occasionally caught my reflection in shop windows and tried to suppress it, but the idiotic grin would reappear within a minute. The excitement wouldn't let up. There was no reason to celebrate, but my feet brought me from nearby by themselves. When I walked out, quite tipsy, the sky above the city was decorated with a myriad of stars. A couple of beers helped me calm down and collect my thoughts. Maybe I really did need a break. Yeah, this definitely was a good time for music for learning how to read it. But a tightly folded sheet within Zedfield's song sat tightly in my pocket. Whatever works. Though I could also gain something more practical than just emotional benefit out of this situation. With disgust, I remembered Kagume's words about trying to get closer to Ellie. It was the same disgust I had felt the first time. Iwamura would probably be happy to hear I was successful at strengthening my relationship. Ugh. For a second, I imagined that everything in my life was finally getting back to normal. Kobayashi Corporation would release Kagume's father, Irina would return to the USSR, Catherine would go back to the US where she belongs. Either due to the fairy tale nature of the idea or the alcohol, I disappeared into this daydream for a good 10 minutes. Having forgotten about everything, I was just floating down Tokyo's streets, filling my lungs with a spicy air of freedom and security. Until a disturbing thought pierced my mind. Where she belongs. Wait, I was talking about Katya, the girl I had sworn to love forever. The picture of that bright future dimmed before my mind's eye. The vivid colors turned dark, the painting became covered in dirt, mold, and spider webs, then turned to ashes. Did I just do away with the feeling that had defined my existence for the past few years? Rip apart, destroy, and throw away the love that had seemed unbreakable not so long ago? What would take its place? Or was I supposed to spend my remaining days on earth with a hole in my heart? I was the one who chose this life. I made a vow. Not to her, but to myself. Hot tears burst out of my eyes, but I didn't know if they carried more regret or resentment. Lights were on in my house. It was chilly outside. I managed to sober up a bit, but the treacherous lightheadedness let me know that my condition was plain for anyone to see. I didn't want Himitsu to see me like this, especially considering how he had left things last time. We hadn't seen each other for several days, and what had I been doing? Though it's not like I had much choice. What would I do, sleep outside? I opened the door, started to take off my shoes, and just as slowly walked to the kitchen. I tried to control my every step, in order to not wobble or show any other signs of my good mood. Nico-kun? Mitsu was sitting behind the empty kitchen table. Good afternoon, I mean, evening. And I immediately failed. You're late. Yeah, kinda. Just a quick glance at me, but that was enough. Were you drinking? Just a bit. Why was I apologizing? Suddenly, I felt extremely angry with myself. Your choice. But in a voice so calm that it made me want to offer even more excuses. Sunshine, don't do this. What? You know, I don't. Don't be so passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive, Nico-kun? He smirked threateningly. What would you call your behavior? Active-aggressive? I'm not. Suddenly, the alcohol seemed to have evaporated. I couldn't get enough air and leaned against the wall. Anyway, as I said, that's your choice. Sunshine, don't call me that. Her voice trembled. Don't call me that anymore. You don't have the right. Bruh. Himitsu, look, I just dropped by the bar to chat with the bartender and stayed up late. Could have just not come back at all. But it's still my home. I smiled idiotically. What happened to the window next to the door? She changed the topic abruptly. It broke. The door? What about it? I think you cleaned it that well? I did think that, yeah. Nico, you're sinking deeper and deeper into something dangerous every day. This was just some conversations. Now people are breaking your windows? Those aren't the same people. Ah, so now there's multiple of them? Mitsu flung her arms up in the air in desperation. You don't need to worry about the window and the door. What should I worry about then, Nico-kun? How would I know what to worry about and what not if you don't tell me anything? You don't need to worry about anything, I said very quietly. What? Speak louder, I can't hear you. You don't need to worry about anything, I almost shouted. Don't you understand I'm trying to protect you? The less you know, the better. Did you ask me if I needed any protection? I burst into tears. You just don't get it. Yes, I don't, but I really want to. I didn't know what to say. Dumping the truth, all of it, on Himitsu's shoulders right now seemed like nothing more than cowardice. Bro, why? Why does it seem like cowardice? Explain this to me. You've done enough for me not have, for me to not have to live in constant fear of the coming catastrophe. Bro, it doesn't change anything. Are you insane? You've said it yourself that people fear the unknown before, right? So, you have the choice between her fearing the unknown or her fearing the known, or like the better known, the less unknown, you know? So why? Oh my god, bro, why do I not get the choice? I had no choices with Himitsu at all, did I? I don't think I did. None. Please, give me a choice. Nico-kun, are you going to say something? Fine. I better go. Bro, I got no choices, bro. I can't do anything. Was all I managed to say. Good night. Oh my god, bro. I need a choice, please. When she left, I got a terrible headache. I poured myself a half glass of whiskey and drank it in one shot. The relief came almost immediately. Just a couple hours of euphoria, life had once again treated me to a wrench to the head, each blow more painful than the last. It was becoming clear to me that if things were to continue like this, Mitsu would be completely lost to me. Yes, so why did I not have a choice to... Oh, Jesus. So exasperating. Very soon, too. Most horribly, a quiet voice deep inside my mind whispered that, perhaps, it was for the better. Bro, fuck the quiet voice. I am the player. Let me choose. But only yesterday I had wanted to see her so desperately. Having rushed back to my head, the alcohol was hiding Himitsu's scornful expression, instead pulling Ellie's smiling face out of my memory, as well as Agum's image, which seemed completely inappropriate in this situation. My cheeks burned with shame, but it wasn't even because of Himitsu. Rather, I was ashamed of myself for not giving myself a severe enough penance. Yes, I had plenty of other problems. Yes, I had to think about my own life first and foremost. A life threatened by many dangers. But what's the point of a life without those who love you? Ellie, Kagome, I knew them both for about a short moment and had no idea what would happen next. And Himitsu, there she was, nearby, living across the street. And Catherine. No, I couldn't just turn off every thought about her. However, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't imagine a future with Himitsu and Catherine as bright as the one I'd imagined that afternoon without them. The bottle of whiskey was emptying at an impressive speed, cloudy amber fog sloshing inside, having successfully migrated to my head. It was becoming more and more difficult to connect the images that were chaotically appearing in my conscious mind. Finally, I closed the bottle and somehow got to bed. Couldn't just spend the entire day tomorrow under the blanket suffering from a hangover. Couldn't I? Why not? The answer to that question could only be given by the new day. Mornings are particularly unpleasant when they're only unpleasant for you, and everyone else seems to be enjoying themselves. The sun was shining right on my face, and the room was surprisingly warm even after a September night. I turned to the side and immediately realized I wouldn't fall asleep again. Memories of the previous night came bit by bit, like pieces of a puzzle. Eventually, I managed to put together a more or less complete picture and thank for myself for stopping when he did. It was still early for a Saturday morning, so just the right time for restaurants to open. I managed to sit up, shook my head, then got up and staggered to the bathroom. The cold shower gave me sufficient boost of energy to act. It was hard to say whether a day was enough for Asakura and Kawashima to come to their senses, but I couldn't waste any time. I had no exact plan. I didn't even know what I was going to say to Kagome. One thing was clear. If I had been the one to drag her into all this, I had to face the consequences. The only thing I could hear in the receiver was a series of meaningless dial tones, one after another. I kept calling, but nobody picked up. Very strange. I would have understood if I'd called Himitsu or Catherine, but Kagome lived in a restaurant. Very strange. Maybe they hadn't paid their bill and the phone had been disconnected. I didn't get enough time to get worked up over trying to figure out why I was getting through, as my thoughts were interrupted by the doorbell. What if it was Kagome? I rushed to open the door. However, the person standing behind it was Kagemaru. Kobayashi Dono wishes to speak with you, he said briefly. Everything indicated that on this wonderful Saturday morning, Kagemaru would prefer to be anywhere other than my doorstep. My potential replies were fighting in my head, the ones wanting to refuse, and losing. Can I at least get dressed? Go ahead, just don't take long. Rushing through the empty streets of Tokyo, the expensive European car quickly brought us to the offices of Kobayashi Corporation. I didn't dare start a conversation with Kagemaru, confident I wasn't going to get any sort of answer. Was this all about Ellie asking me to play the bass in their band? Or were they going to kill me for not being able to play the guitar properly? Both options seemed unrealistic, even in the context of everything that happened lately. One way or another, I didn't have to worry about an attempt on my life. This would be a complicated way for someone so powerful to kill me. Which meant they wanted something else. An endless minute of waiting in the elevator. And there I was again, on the god knows which floor, the giant office of Kobayashi-jun, head of Kobayashi Corporation. Just a week ago, in this very place, he had made me feel no less reverence, though much less fear. It was probably because the two of us had come to him on our own initiative, with a goal in mind, and had scraped together a little confidence. And now, it was his turn to make demands. Nikolai, I'm delighted you found the time to pass by. Stop by, sorry. Please, take a seat. I walked to his desk on jelly legs, and dropped into an armchair I found far too soft. How are things? How's school? Everything's fine, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. A young man who's become of such a deep interest to my granddaughter must have an excellent academic record. What it was about Ellie after all. What else could it possibly be about? I wouldn't say that. As you must have guessed, I didn't summon you here to discuss your grades. His eyes flashed, and that was truly frightening. You should realize that I have certain expectations in regard to Elizabeth. Same, of course, holds true concerning her social circle. If you're talking about them asking me to play in her band, I mumbled idiotically, but Kobayashi-jun didn't let me finish. Of course, that is also a delicate matter. He sighed with disappointment. I don't approve of Elizabeth thinking of a hobby like that. I can't forbid her everything. While her parents were still alive, they, as I've always said, allowed themselves too much liberty. But they're no longer with us. He stood up, locked his arms behind his back, and walked to the window. There was something so human, casual, and powerless in that motion that for a moment, I forgot the person standing before could crash markets the world over with a snap of his fingers. Elizabeth has no one left except for me, and I don't want her to think me some sort of tyrant. It's interesting how he's the only one that looks realistic. Everyone else looks like an anime character. But he looks pretty realistic in comparison to literally everyone else. Doesn't have big anime eyes or anything. He looks, again, realistic. A bit, stylized, obviously, but still. He turned to me and continued in that same tone of a lecturing professor. But only so long as this hobby of hers remains within the bounds of reason. Believe me, I agree with you completely. I'm glad to hear that. However, yesterday you were in that basement she rehearsed in, weren't you? Ellison just invited me to listen. And you would probably like to know that she doesn't bring guests there often. I still couldn't understand what he was getting at. What exactly changed just because I visited their studio yesterday? Nikolai, I've always appreciated your parents' contribution to the success of Kobayashi Corporation. He suddenly smiled. You've already mentioned that. My understandable fear was joined by anger, but I restrained myself. Have I? Forgive an old man. My memory isn't as good as it was. Kobayashi Jun felt silent and just stared me straight in the eye. It was impossible to hold out against Evelyn for long. Kobayashi-sama, I don't understand what I'm doing here. What do you think? I don't know. What sort of relationship do you have with my granddaughter? What relationship? I repeated. What was this? Your grandfather's concern? Overprotection? But then why the hell did he mention my parents? Deep inside, I felt the fury starting to burn. When even the weakest of animals is driven to a corner, its only choice is to fight. Did my answer really matter? If I'd been brought here just for a conversation, it would let me go sooner or later. And if it was a game of cat and mouse, the opinion of the latter barely mattered. Hint at serious intentions regarding Ellie. What does this mean? That serious intentions mean that I want to be with her? Or that we are very good friends? Because that's what I would have said. I want a very strong friendship. Let's see. Okay, that is not what I want to say. Kobayashi-sama, we just go to the same school, nothing else. That was the truth. I didn't even have to lie. Well, enough now. I didn't mean to pressure you. He suddenly relaxed. I just don't want her passions to, let us say, cross a certain line. Apparently, that meant that I was supposed to refuse Ellie's offer. Do we understand each other, Nikolai? We do. Kagemaru will see you to the exit. Honori is not here. Walking out of Kobayashi Corporation's office, I consecutively felt hunger, anger, and confusion. What had that shown been for? Kagemaru would have been enough to let me know that I'm not supposed to talk to Ellie. Or did her grandfather also think I knew something? Was hiding some documents or something like that? Oh. I swore powerlessly and quickly walked away from that bloody barred door. I don't know what that means. My stomach was starting to collapse in on itself and turn into a black hole. Luckily, it wasn't too difficult to find ramen in the capital of Japan in the year 1987. All and somewhat calmed down, I walked down half-empty streets, heading home. Of course, I should have tried to call Kagome again, but after everything that had happened, our problem seemed to have taken a backseat. Maybe Ellie's friends were taking the day off too. People seem to be causing me a lot of problems lately, so I decided to go where I'd come across as few as possible, the park. How did things even end up like this? In a play that was my life, I got the role of Romeo, except without Clan Montague behind me. In Kobayashi Jun, I real Capulet was threatening to bring my time on Earth to its end, were I even to look at his Juliet. Our relationship seemed to be of interest to third parties too, KGB, represented by Irina, and Kagome in search of her father. If we were in another one of Shakespeare's stories, it would probably have been interesting to me too. Though could well have found myself in Hamlet rather than Romeo and Juliet. Obviously, my desire to get back at Kobayashi Corporation was like threatening the sky with a fist. Besides, I couldn't be sure that he was to blame. There was always the possibility that the car accident really was just an accident. Plus, deep inside the old man didn't make me feel that oppressive disgust that murderers evoke. But he probably wouldn't have the position he does without knowing how to make the right impression. All these pointless attempts at finding who to blame were making my head swell. It was long past time to return home and try calling Kagome again. I headed toward the park's exit, but as I turned down a quiet path, I found myself witness to an unexpected sight. Sitting on a bench were Michael and Catherine. Trying not to make any noise, I sneaked closer and hid in the bushes. Let's go. I was so sure that they were alone, they were speaking fairly loudly, and I had no trouble hearing every word. I realize it might seem sudden to you, but I have thought it through, Michael said in his normal voice. But I know him long enough to figure out he was nervous. We've only known each other for a couple of weeks. Meanwhile, Catherine clearly felt uncomfortable, even if she was trying not to show it. Bro, what do you mean she was trying? Look at her posture. This is not comfortable. My feelings aren't going to change. So that's what it was. I'd become an unwilling witness to a love confession. If it had been any other girl but Katya, I would have found this funny. But this situation was anything but. Moreover, just a couple days earlier, I would have probably jumped out of the bushes and punched Michael in the face. But either that meeting with Kobayashi-Jun had somehow cooled me down, or there was another reason. I decided to see how the conversation would go before rushing into action. I'm flattered, really, but if it's about Nick, what does Nick have to do with this? What doesn't he? Things are long over between us. Their words hurt me way more than I expected. Of course, the same as the fact that our relationship had ended a long time ago, and by now we were strangers to each other didn't change a thing. But I felt like a cripple, brutally reminded of his handicap. What's the problem? Michael, do you really think this is how it works? I don't know. I've never been in a relationship. Then just coughed vaguely in response. Does that mean I can assume you don't feel the same? You can assume whatever you want, but I'm not ready to promise you anything. I think she was just bullying Michael in her usual manner. For a second, I even pitied the poor guy. Of course, few people would be happy to find out that their ex-girlfriend had started dating their friend. But at the moment, I was surprised more than enraged. I'll talk to Nick. Jesus Christ, why? Even I, sitting in the bushes, felt secondhand embarrassment. Is he my father, brother, and husband all at once? Why would he make decisions for me? So wait, for me to be the father, brother, and husband all at once, I would have to... What exactly? To have had an incestuous relationship with Catherine's mom. So I should have been Catherine's mom's son, had a relationship with her that birthed Catherine, and then got married to Catherine. And then I could be her father, brother, and husband all at once. Pretty crazy, but yeah, that's possible. So I'm pretty sure there are cases like this in the real world. I'm pretty sure that there's at least one case in the entire human history where something like this happened. I mean, marriage, maybe not, but just a relationship with, like this, I'm pretty sure that happened. Humans are fucked up, man. If you can give me an answer, I already have. Oh, it's a no? Catherine turned her head to the side just to avoid looking him in the eye, and her gaze suddenly stopped at exactly the spot where I was hiding. I was sure it was no way Katya could see me through the thick layer of vegetation, but suddenly something seemed to have changed about her. Do you pressure every girl like this, demanding an answer? I've already told you, I don't have much experience in these things. I'll tell you what, you need to work on your approach. What do you mean? At least try to imagine what the girl is feeling. Pay less attention to how others see you. She smirked, suddenly lowering her voice. You say so. Michael looked pretty confused, like he'd been called up by a teacher to analyze mistakes he had made on an exam. Michael. In every other regard, he had always come off as a calm, reasonable, confident young man. But right now, sitting next to the girl he liked, he was acting like a shy first grader at the start of a school year. God, even Kyosuke would have done better. No, my cautious American friend. Love can be learned from textbooks. I'm glad you understood each other. Can I have a chance? The Lord works in mysterious ways. Catherine said just as mysteriously stood up, smiled, and slowly passed by the bushes I was hiding in, though she didn't even look at them. The theatrics at the end were probably too much, but it looked like Katya had managed to impress Michael somehow. For a good while after she left, he just sat there alone, thinking about something. Felt a bit uncomfortable I could see him, but not the other way around. It's one thing to eavesdrop on a conversation between two people. Their behavior doesn't change much whether they're observed or not. But alone with themselves, people can often allow themselves more than they do in public. But not Michael. He kept sitting still, like a rodent's thinker, then just stood up and confidently headed for the exit. Actually, I shouldn't have had anything to do with this. Now, instead of resolving more pressing issues, I was going to spend the entire rest of the day thinking about Catherine. Catherine. I jumped out of my hiding spot, ran to where she had been sitting with Michael just recently, and kicked the innocent bench as hard as I could. Of course, it didn't go well. I almost broke my toe. Closed the door behind me and took off my shoes with some effort. It seemed like I hadn't been home for an entire day, but the clock said it was only 2 in the afternoon. I still felt slightly dizzy from yesterday's whiskey, so I just wanted to fall into bed and sleep until evening. But first, I needed to resolve the issue with Kagome and figure out why nobody was picking up at the restaurant. As soon as I walked to the phone. It rang. Right, it had to be her. Hello? I said enthusiastically. Hi, Nick. Oh, hi. It turned out to be just Ellie. Just Ellie. Yosuke could only hear me right now. Why so gloomy? No, everything's fine. You sure? I never guessed by your voice. Obviously, some things in my life weren't fine, partially because of her. 100% sure. I'll try to make myself sound friendlier. Oh, alright then. I'm calling because... Have you thought about our offer? Seemed pretty worried. What offer? Come on, about playing bass for Zed Fields. I drawled. I completely forgot about that. First thing in the morning there was Kagemaru, then her own grandfather, and finally Catherine, all trying to distract me from this important question. Still, Ellie was waiting for my response. Well, I told you I'd think about it, and I'm thinking. How much longer do you think you'll be thinking? Her honestly inappropriate persistence began to irritate me. You were the ones who gave me time until Monday. Yeah, sure, but I thought maybe you've already decided. You know, Elizabeth... Why'd you call her Elizabeth, bro? I've been a little busy with slightly more important things the whole day, like talking with your grandfather. Well, I'd been meaning to hide anything about that conversation, but it might have been better idea not to bring it up at this exact moment. Oh god, what is it this time? In her voice, I heard notes of irritation rather than surprise. Well, he knows I was at your studio yesterday. Ellie took her time replying. Sorry. I know his people kept an eye on us, but nobody has ever had a problem because of that. Sorry if you... No, it's not a problem. You're just worried about his granddaughter. I get that. Worry and control are not the same thing. I guess. Did he say anything else? Would it be a better idea to recount the entire conversation or just stop there? You know, not really. Not sure he was listening to me anymore. What? Why does he have to constantly meddle with my life? I'm a grade A student, I'm taking extra classes, preparing to get into university. Everything the way he wants. And he's trying to take away my only escape. I don't think it's about... If he hadn't interfered in a musical career before, what had changed now? Do you realize how scummy that is? Of course I do. I agreed, anything to calm her down. Sorry again, I'll definitely talk to him. The Kobayashi Corporation will never bother you again. Much as I wish that to be true, it was hard to believe. Don't. I've already forgotten about it, honest. Nick, if it's going to affect your decision at all, said in a concerned tone after a moment's pause. I promise you it won't. I was already regretting telling her about a visit to her grandfather. Then I'll call you tomorrow? No need, I'll call you myself. Seems pretty distant. I'm safe still. I think we got almost every decision. No need, I'll call you myself. Seems distant. Talk to you later. A-type of behavior, huh? Curious to know if I do call her tomorrow. If I do call her, then I'm fine with this. Because it can be taken both ways. Like, it can be distant or it can be, I'll call you myself. So that it's like a promise, you know? Like, you'll definitely make a decision until tomorrow. A-type behavior. That's what I'm looking for. The type A behavior pattern is characterized by extreme sense of time urgency, competitiveness, impatience, aggressiveness, much increased risk of a heart attack, and more. Despite all the obvious contradictions, I'd always consider myself an active person. Ellie's unrelenting energy would tire out anyone. Were there no other bass players in Tokyo? Anyone who would play for more than a week would fit the role better than me. Maybe it was about something else? I walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared inside for a while, then closed it and grabbed a pack of nuts from the shelf. That would do. Saturday TV couldn't kill my boredom. Historical documentaries, numerous weird shows, and anime. All of it seemed disgustingly vulgar and pointless. Maybe I was trying to drown myself in an audiovisual slop to get away from unpleasant thoughts. Oh, Ellie, her grandfather, and his question about whether we were in a relationship. It seemed like just yesterday there had been only one girl in the entire world I wanted to be in a relationship with. But now even today's park bench incident left me almost indifferent. Maybe I had needed some sort of shake-up. New friends start changing for the better. If, of course, I had the right to think of letting Catherine go as a change for the better. There was also something else. Damn right, Kagome. I jumped up and rushed to the hall. But before I even grabbed the receiver, the doorbell stopped me. That must have been her. I was about to find out what happened to the phone at Gifts of the Sea. However, it turned out to just be Michael. Oh, it's you again. I grumbled, disappointed. Good to see you too. Why again? Never mind. Have anything you want to talk about, or are you just dropping by? I do, actually. Make it quick. I'm a bit busy now. He looked over at my shoulder at the empty house with some doubt. He called Catherine. Catherine. I thought she clearly told him not to talk to me about our relationship. What about her? May I come in? Of course you can. I grumble again, even trying to hide my irritation. Tea? Coffee? No, thank you. I actually pretended not to notice my sarcasm. And I'm listening very carefully. Talk to Catherine today. I'd hear she talks to someone at least. Nick, I like her. That's why I'm here. I understand you two used to be in a relationship. But not anymore. Finally, Michael expressed at least some emotion and frowned. You don't seem to be surprised at all. I could guess it all from your face. My voice sounded unsure, but I couldn't just tell him I'd eavesdropped on their conversation. I'd never noticed you were so perceptive. Got a problem with that? No, just an observation. Intentionally or not, Michael was beginning to aggravate me. Bro, stop, Nick, please. Let me continue. If you don't mind, I'd like to try. Do you need my permission? I need to know that nothing will change between us afterwards. At first, I couldn't understand what the hell he was doing this for. Michael seemed to be stuck with some idea of chivalry that had been outdated for a good 500 years now. But then I realized the situation was far more banal. I was just trying to account for every possible scenario. If Catherine were to agree, someone could think he'd shamelessly taken advantage of a temporary breakup. After all, we were in Japan. With this, he would be off the hook. Permission granted, no objections left. You need my blessing, not my permission. I smirked, and for some reason put a kettle on the stove. I don't think the choice of words changes the point. Yeah, except not being a priest, I can't give you any absolution. I see it that way. I just don't get the point of this conversation. And you're against it? Jesus, what difference does it make if I'm for or against it? If I say I mind, are you going to leave her alone? I need to know in advance. You didn't answer the question. In the end, it'll be up to Catherine to make the decision. And what the hell are we discussing here? I almost shouted. Most likely, It wasn't so much about Michael himself as about the fact that his stupid interrogation had reopened an old wound. Lately, thoughts about Ellie and Kagome had helped me avoid the unresolved situation with Katya. And most importantly, I was okay with that. Maybe I wouldn't even mind for things to stay this way forever. Catherine would continue to exist in a sort of superposition. Everything would be seemingly long over between us, but at the same time, there she'd be, within arm's reach. I could just approach her and start a silly conversation about the weather. Nick, I've come to you as a friend. Have you? Then what would you say if you were in my shoes? Depends on what I felt at the moment. What he felt. I pulled and took the kettle filled with boiling water off the burner. But Michael also had a point. My answer would hardly matter. Most likely, I just didn't have the courage to admit to myself that I was afraid to move on. You know, I'm very glad she came back. I really am. Oh? He raised his eyebrows. Otherwise, I would have suffered God knows how much longer because of a person that no longer exists. No longer exists? You think you know her? No, but I'd like to. Try not to be disappointed. That's resentment talking. Yes, Misha, exactly that. I got annoyed. What am I supposed to be feeling here? I'm a human being, not an android like you. Michael didn't react to my insult. Apparently, he came prepared with an infinite amount of patience. So, sort it out between Catherine and yourself without dragging me into it. Does that mean that you don't mind our relationship? Do whatever you want, I don't give a damn. I waved my hand. Then I wouldn't dare to take any more of your time. I'll find the exit. His hypocritical good manners made me flinch, and it took a significant conscious effort to restrain myself from throwing something heavy after him. So, what had just happened? Had I abandoned any hope of getting together with Catherine ever again? Even though there was the most obvious explanation, something about it seemed fundamentally wrong. If Catherine started dating someone else, or if she had been dating before in the US, would that fact itself change my feelings? I doubted it. It'd be more like additional fuel in my stove of self-flagellation, but no more than that. But right now I felt no sadness or sorrow, only resentment, as if something important had been taken away from me. Was it Catherine? She'd successfully done it herself a year and a half ago. No. It was more correct to say I was stripping myself of feelings that had been hurting me for so long. The most frightening revelation was that deep inside I liked it. I felt like I was throwing a 100-pound bag with old junk off my shoulders. The endless angsty introspection brought a feeling of pulsating pressure to my head, as if someone had put a flat ball inside my skull I'd put a flat ball inside my skull and started pumping it up. Yeah. Luckily, I didn't suffer from solipsism, and I knew the world around me continued to exist despite my internal turmoil. Kagome still wasn't picking up. I was getting seriously worried and decided that Gifts of the Sea couldn't do without a personal visit from me. But what if everything was alright? It was just some problem with the line. I imagined Kagome's annoyed face, her indignant voice sounded in my head. Looks like it's high time to panic. I was aimlessly walking from one room to another, and at some point my eyes stopped on the bass guitar that was patiently awaiting for its moment. Could I even think about it after the conversation I'd had with Kobayashi-jun today? But was that the only reason for my hesitation? Not for Kobayashi Corporation, the KGB. Would I have agreed without a second thought? What about Catherine? Alright, let's say that after the conversation with Michael, her issue was resolved. Resolved? That easily? He smirked and picked up the bass. What about Kagome? Of course, if I were to take Kobayashi Corporation out of the equation, the fact that I had fostered our acquaintance would be gone too. For some reason, this thought made me uncomfortable. But I was even more exasperated by the thought that I wasn't in control of my own life. Yeah, I'm in control. If Ellie had asked me to become a bass player just a month ago, would I have refused? What a poor choice of the moment. Feast and time of plague. Not to mention that Ellie knew that I was going through a rough period in life. But do people always come across these opportunities only when they're ready for them? I completely lost track of time, frenziedly playing the same part until evening, the song I'd been rehearsing yesterday with Zed Fields. Soon enough, I rubbed my fingertips raw, but I didn't care. It felt as if I was running away from something. trying to suppress my thoughts with the low frequencies of the bass guitar. The thought that no matter how dearly I wanted to stand on the same stage as Ellie, that dream would never come true. When it was completely dark outside, somebody rang the doorbell. I was so tired of looking for enemies everywhere that I just walked to open it, forgetting to think about all the possible dangers that could be waiting on my doorstep. And it turned out that this was when I should have been the most cautious. The night guest was Kagome. Not alone either, but accompanied by her grandfather. There were bags and packs in their hands. They both looked tired and worn out. What do I owe the honor? Our restaurant burned down. Kagome finally forced out without raising her head. Your restaurant burned down? I slowly repeated, trying to understand the meaning of the words. Why? Because it was made of wood. Oh, right. I just didn't know how to react to something like that. I kept standing there dumbfounded. The old man apparently didn't really understand what was happening and what he was doing there. Very sorry. Was it an accident? Will you let us in? Why? We've got nowhere else to go. In their hands, Kagome and her grandfather held the meager possessions they'd managed to save from the fire. I was trying to see what had happened. But if I couldn't even figure out my own life, could I really afford to let victims of a fire stay at my place? Well, of course, come in. I couldn't chase them away in a situation like this either. I could at least spend the night and would think of something in the morning. The old man sat at the kotatsu and immediately fell asleep, while Kagome sat at the kitchen table, intensely unpacking their belongings. I was walking back and forth, not knowing what to do. What happened? Are you going to tell me? Kawashima and Asakura came to me yesterday night. I was wrong after all. They hadn't decided to wait. And? They just came in, poured petrol all over your door? Of course not. I got angry and put the bag aside. They came to confront me, but I kicked them out, and they promised to take revenge. And this morning we woke up smelling smoke. Are you sure that they're the ones who did it? Breaking windows and painting obscene characters is one thing, but setting houses on fire is another entirely. Are you asking if I have evidence? Kagome replied in a surprisingly calm voice. No, I don't. And I'm sure that the police won't find anything either. Even if they do, they'll just bury the case. See. You see? You see what? Is that all you can say? What else could I possibly say? And actually, I didn't enjoy the fact that her grandfather had come to my house without warning. We're planning to stay here for an indefinite period of time. And she still managed to find something to complain about. In the end, I decided to be tactful and not react to her words. At least today. Acted like a real knight in shining armor, did you? Protected me from bullying. Are you happy now? On the other hand, if you don't like it here, take responsibility. Got mad and even worked her grandfather out for a moment. Although he just raised his head, looked around with sleepy eyes, and immediately fell asleep again. You and your problems are the last thing I need right now. It's your fault. Sure it is. Who else would you have to blame? Except for yourself for not being able to keep your mouth shut. Yeah? Weren't you also convincingly telling me yesterday that I should be able to stand up for myself? And where did that get me? You shouldn't have gone that far. Could have known they were capable of something like that. He was right. Nobody did. Moreover, I wasn't even sure the Yashima was there doing. What would you have done in my place? Well, first, I wouldn't have gone so far. Of course, it's my own fault for not managing to take a bunch of rich assholes down a peg. Nobody's blaming you. I responded, but my voice lacked confidence. Would I really be able to stand up for myself in her place? After all, Asakura and Kawashima had plenty of friends and could count on the silent approval of the entire school. Perhaps my only difference from Kagome was that I wasn't as well suited to the role of the victim. But if they had chosen me as a result of some twisted thought process, then I got that tugging feeling of guilt again, the feeling that I had involuntarily brought an already unpleasant situation to its boiling point. Arguing in front of the entire school, public humiliation of Asakura by Kagome. Could she forgive that? I guess not. Good thing everyone at least stayed alive. Fine, I agree, you're right. I shouldn't have approached things so hastily. Good. She scoffed, stood up, walked to the fridge, opened it, and winced. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to make dinner. I was quite satisfied with Himitsu's cooking, although she wasn't cooking much these days. I sure hadn't planned on getting a new chef. But I tried to find at least something positive about the situation. It's delicious. Even the old man woke up for dinner. Your name is Nikokun, I think. Yes. Thank you for letting us stay, Nikokun. We don't have any relatives in Tokyo. All our money burned in the fire. They couldn't even stay at the hotel. Somehow Kagame hadn't even mentioned the money. Were they supposed to pay for them too? I'm really sorry. My conscience prevented me from taking out my indignation on this nice, harmless old man. He of all people was blameless. I have a sister. She lives in Hokkaido. As soon as I contact her, we'll leave right away and won't bother you any longer. No, it's fine. I live alone anyway. What about your parents? They died in a car accident a year and a half ago. Oh, I'm very sorry. So young and already all alone. Although I was even younger when... Granddad, nobody wants to hear that. Gome interrupted him rudely, having not even touched the food. He just sighed in response. Apparently, he was used to such treatment. Strangers don't care about 100-year-old stories. But Kagome-chan, the one who helped you in a difficult situation, is no longer a stranger. He just scoffed and turned away. You must forgive her, Nikokun. Kagome had been living with her mother almost her entire life. We haven't talked much, only when her mother died. Granddad, Kagome growled, and the old man had to stop. Even though I would have gladly listened to what he had to say. As he said, we aren't planning to stay any longer than necessary. When we finished eating, Kagome washed the dishes without saying a word, while I took a couple of old food items out of the closet and put them in the empty room where my parents used to sleep. The old man immediately went to bed, while Kagome and I returned to the kitchen. Are you really going to give up everything and move to Hokkaido? What about your father? Of course not, but grandfather is already having it hard enough. The rest of his life's work. Left alone with me, Kagome started to act much calmer. Meaning? What? You're going to stay here for an indefinite period of time? Maybe. Does that bother you? How should I put it? I'd already somewhat recovered from the shock, and come to terms with the fact that I'd probably need to spend at least some time living under the same roof as Kagome. Do you hate my company that much? What does it have to... What if I showed up at your restaurant yesterday and said that my house burned down and I was going to live there? But we didn't have any free rooms. You've got a mansion. That's all you're looking for? You could have gone to Ellie's place. I grumbled out. She must have a palace. How's she doing, by the way? I'm gonna ask without a hint of resentment. How am I supposed to know? Really? He smiled for the first time. Listen, I've had more than enough experiences for today. I'm going to sleep. Good night. Good night. But that's it? You're going to argue or talk back to me? No? I'm going to sleep too. I tossed and turned in bed for a while, trying to somehow sort out all the events of the day in my head. Well, one thing was clear. Ellie would have to find another bass player. Wait, what? What do you mean, Ellie would have to find another bass player? No fucking way, bro. Money. Sometimes when you wake up, you really want to finish watching a dream that had abruptly ended. Wait, what do you mean? She will have to find another bass player. Sometimes you just want to keep on sleeping because you don't feel rested enough. On some occasions, you don't want to get up at all. I can't even remember the last time I woke up chipper and full of energy. Jumped out of bed and greeted the new day with a big smile. But today, I opened my eyes and immediately felt as if there was a cloudy liquid spilling from one side of my head to the other each time I moved it. Memories didn't come back right away. Viscous like tar, they brought back the events of yesterday I had successfully forgotten overnight. I just wanted to turn to the other side and fall asleep again. But that's when new sounds from the kitchen entered my consciousness. With some effort, I managed to get up, put some clothes on, opened the door slightly, and stuck my head out. Carmen was cooking breakfast with a smile on her face I'd never seen before. The serene smile of a person doing what they love. Good morning. Apron time? Let's go. Okay. I walked into the kitchen, wiping my eyes and smoothing my messy hair. Good morning. Kagome turned to me, still smiling for a moment, but then turned serious. trying to discuss important matters. Won't your grandfather be having breakfast with us? He went to the police station early in the morning. Ah, I see. After waking up, I usually need some time to come to my senses. But right now I had absolutely no idea what to talk about, especially with someone I didn't know that well. Alright then. And I walked away to freshen up. There was a new towel drying in the bathroom, as well as a new tube of toothpaste and 2 toothbrushes on the shelf next to the mirror. In principle, there was nothing wrong with that. I was a little alarmed by Kagame's arrogance. When I returned to the kitchen, the breakfast was already on the table. Have a good meal. I sat across Kagome and, without saying a word, put a solid portion of rice in my bowl. It seemed that my new roommate didn't like to talk while eating either. But breakfast turned out to be exceptionally tasty, and I couldn't help but remark on that. You must want to become a chef? Makes you think that. Asked without even looking at me. Well, you're really good at it, so I thought. Many people cook well, but the economy doesn't need that many chefs. Are you into economics? You could say that. You want to be an economist? I'm planning to enroll into the economics department at Todai. She responded calmly, as if talking about her plans for the evening. Todai? I was surprised. Yes, why? I could imagine Ellie or Michael at Todai, maybe even Kyosuke. Nothing, I guess. I just never thought about Todai. It must be difficult to get in there. You just need to pass the exams. Just. I smirked. I realized that Kagame was more or less right. After all, those exams were meant to be a way to find the best of the best. It's an insurmountable barrier. Alright, sorry. It's just that for me, Todai is something like... I can see that. Kagame smirked and looked me in the eye for the first time. Now what's that supposed to mean? Only that you have a clear understanding of your own abilities. Kagame's words sounded offensive, but it was nothing to latch onto. It was just stating a fact. Fine, now tell me, what are you going to do next? Next? About your restaurant? About Kawashima and Asakura? About your father? She shrugged and started picking at the last grains of rice with her chopsticks. Right, now it's all my responsibility, is that it? I asked sarcastically. But Kagome didn't react in any way. Yesterday your granddad said you have no money left. How much do you need? Wait, I will get my wallet. Oh, it jumped up from the chair and really was about to go get her some money. Nico-san, calm down. I said coldly. There's no point in running around now. Yeah? Is there a point in doing anything now? Why like this, bro? Why? Christ. This man. But I still returned to the table. Today is Sunday. What do you usually do on Sundays? Me? Nothing. She suddenly smiled, stood up and started collecting the dishes. Then you won't have to come up with anything. I was watching Kagame wash the dishes, attempting to fully grasp the comedy of the situation. Only in Kyosuke's manga does the protagonist get a girl out of the blue that has nowhere to go, and they start living together. Her grandfather was the only thing that didn't fit into the otherwise perfect setup, but he could simply be playing a role I didn't yet understand. If I were to keep following manga logic, there would have to begin a fierce competition for my heart between Kagome, Himitsu, Catherine, and, I guess, Ellie, to bring the number of heroines to 4. Not that I found such a turn of events particularly enticing. It takes a lot to run a harem. I could barely handle my own life. In a way, living with Kagame was convenient. At least I wouldn't have to worry about cooking anymore. About cooking. On the other hand, I had to worry about explaining all this to Himitsu. Nico-san, I seem to have lost myself to daydreaming. Nico-san, where's the dish soap? Dish soap? I slowly repeated as if trying to grasp the meaning of a difficult foreign word. I don't have any. Regular soap over there. You don't? What do you mean you don't? Bruh. This man. Why would I? I smiled simple-mindedly. I see. Kagame frowned and turned to the sink. Well, we aren't in a restaurant. There aren't many dishes. Normal soap. Bro, who the fuck washes their dishes with normal soap? Doesn't matter if there's not many dishes, bro. What do you mean normal soap is enough? Still leaves fat on the plates. Fine, got it. I'll buy some dish soap. I said and thought. Not a day gone and she was already giving me orders in my own house. Then you should also buy new sponges. These aren't any good at all. Here is a sponge that seemed perfectly fine to me. Anything else? I asked in a demonstratively polite voice. Yes, actually. Kagome started to reply but caught herself. I must be imposing where I shouldn't. But she didn't look too apologetic. Not hard or anything. Kept playing the role of the generous host. I can still wash the dishes like this, of course. Forgive me, Nico-san. And then for whatever reason, I felt guilty. I was gonna drop by a household store anyway. Right to here. He smiled and turned off the tap. Then a doorbell rang. I was sort of happy for it, having interrupted this uncomfortable conversation. Grandfather must be back already. It's not grandfather, bro. It is not oh my god, Jesus. Kagome brightened up and hurried to the hall. I stood up and followed her. Bro, it seems it has to be. But on the doorstep was, because it's not Ellie. Ellie said she would call, or I would call her, so it's not Ellie. Catherine, maybe, but I don't think she would be. Oh my god, it's fucking Ellie. What the fuck? Why is Ellie here? Hi. I agreed with her as Kagome managed to duck behind my back at the last moment. Nick, good morning. Am I interrupting? She was visibly nervous. Interrupting? Well, you know, I mumbled, but Ellie didn't let me finish. I came to ask you. I wanted to know. Did you think about our offer? Your offer? He frowned. About playing bass for Zed Fields. Ah, right. He said as if I just figured out the answer to the simplest equation after having spent multiple hours on it. You know, now isn't the best time. I didn't have the determination to just refuse and kick Ellie out, even though I'd already decided I wouldn't be able. Why not, bro? Why not? You aren't alone? Where's the apron and the bun? What happened? Ellie looked behind my back and saw Kagome, who had somehow managed to shrink and take up even less space than usual. Let's go. The silence went on for a while. I wonder if there was really anything that strange about Kagome being at my place on a Sunday morning. Maybe not. I was sure Ellie would react to it like it was something completely outrageous. What is she doing here? Ellie stepped in and I automatically moved aside. Yeah, you see, Kagome didn't stay silent. Your so-called friends burned down my restaurant. Nico-san generously offered to let me and my grandfather stay at his place. Do you have a problem with that? Offered? What? Ellie clearly hadn't been expecting that explanation. Okay, this art, not very good, bro. I have to say this. It's not great. Everything else has been looking pretty good. This is not looking that great, bro. Sorry. You heard me. That's ridiculous. I don't understand. Nick? Well, her restaurant did burn down. I did offer to let him stay the night here because... I began to haltingly explain the situation, but Kagome interrupted me again. Nico-san, you don't need to explain yourself to her. I'm not explaining myself. Nick, is it true? I mean, I haven't seen it with my own eyes or anything. Oh, is that so? You're just taking her word for it? Would you like to take a look at the ashes? Go ahead, I'm sure you know the address. It was hard to even suspect Kagome was lying. The easiest thing to falsify is something that can't be verified. You can claim the pyramids were built by aliens or that you've seen a UFO. In the end, people will take you for an idiot but not an outright liar. It would be much more difficult to prove, for example, that the Americans never landed on the moon. As for Kagome's restaurant, you don't even need to go to the moon to find out. Even if it's true, what do my friends have to do with that? Who else could have done it right after... He went silent. Don't judge other people by your standards. Just because you allow yourself violence doesn't mean others do. Besides, nobody in their right mind would respond to a slap with arson. There was logic in her words. Of course, Kawashima and Asakura were delinquents, but they weren't criminals. And it would be too much even for criminals, considering how dense the neighborhood was in its dilapidated state. The whole district would have burned down. She thought about it. It was more like something a maniac would do. I don't believe in coincidences. Who else would do that? What do I care? The police sorted it out. The police? Kagome smirked and immediately shouted. Your grandfather has them all on his payroll. It's strange that he didn't just kill us all right away. Would have been a lot less hassle. Nick, how could you let this crazy bitch into your house? Maybe she burnt her own restaurant down. Kagome looked like a steam engine ready to overheat and explode. Girls, calm down already. I mumbled weakly. It was clear that both of them were so convinced that they were right, it was completely pointless to try and change their minds here and now. I felt like the referee of a boxing match, pointlessly shouting break. I just had to prevent the argument from turning into a real fight. And you're protecting her. Nick, I never expected that of you. Nico-san just understands who your friends really are. Right, Nico-san? The last thing I wanted was to play the role of some sort of trophy that either party was ready to slit the other's throat for. Girls, I suggest you don't jump to any conclusions. Everything's clear enough as is. Who else would do that? You need to be arrested for defamation. That would be nice. Maybe then I could at least hope there would be an investigation. Kagome seemed to be genuinely convinced that Kawashima and Asakura were ones who set her restaurant on fire. Nick, I never expected this of you. Bro, look at her face right now. But Ellie ignored her words. You really want to look like an innocent princess, don't you? It's like the meme with the late Kagome is the lady shouting and Ellie's a cat. I don't like that, bro. Why the hell did you even show up here? What, do you not have enough other men running circles around you? You don't, by the looks of it. You could have gone to a hotel. I couldn't. Kagome snapped. Naturally, she didn't want to tell Ellie about the money. Then to a friend's place. Oh wait, you don't have any. Then to your relatives. You have those, right? Ellie was gloating, and looked quite ugly from the side. It's none of your business. I came to Nico-san because she didn't know how to respond to Ellie's snide remarks. And the strain was just making her more and more red in the face. I realized this couldn't go on for much longer, but it could well start an actual catfight. But after all that, I could no longer take Ellie's side, with me immediately kicking out Kagome and her grandfather. Ah, so Nick doesn't know yet. It's none of your business, Kagome shouted. Ellie, I think you better go. Sorry. I finally stepped in before it was too late. You have a big heart, Nick. He grinned and walked outside. I'll call you. Don't bother. Ellie responded and left the yard. Well, that was how my music career ended before it ever started. Well, what was that? Okay, wait a minute. If I chose the other thing. Let's save here. And then let's load this. I don't think it's gonna change. What? Alright. I agree. Just don't take too long, okay? I doubt it's gonna change anything, but let's see. Maybe she will actually call. Nope. She's still here. You should be asking it. Okay, so nothing changed. Bruh. Oh, they'll just give you that. If nothing changes, I guess I can just go on from here. Me? You could have kicked her out earlier. Or Miss snorted and went to the kitchen. Everything was over before I even knew what happened. God, Ellie just had to go and show up this early in the morning. It wasn't even Monday. I don't know why I gave up on this, but okay. I sighed, closed the door, and reluctantly followed Kagome, realizing that the conversation wasn't over yet. The dishes were dry, the smell of a healthy and nutritious breakfast had dissolved into the air. My kitchen had become a much less cozy place once again. Kagome sat behind the table and nervously drummed her fingers against it. Could have at least let me talk to her one-on-one. I slowly walked back and forth and stopped across from Kagome. She looked like she was waiting in line for an unpleasant procedure at the hospital. Kagome remained silent and absentmindedly stared off into the distance. Not like Ellie's done anything to you. She hasn't, Nico-san? Do you really believe that? He smirked spitefully. What, do you think Kobayashi Jun's granddaughter would spend her nights setting fire to people's houses? I agree that you have every reason to suspect Kawashima and Asakura, but it's not like Ellie handed them the gasoline. Kagome bit her lip as she almost said something highly uncivilized. She's guilty in any case. But aren't you just the embodiment of Marx and Engels all in one? A fearless class warrior. I said sarcastically. My new tenant wasn't in the mood to laugh. Why do you hate Ellie so much? What am I supposed to love her for? You aren't supposed to love her, but... I sighed and went silent, wondering whether this was worth talking about at all. Sometimes you're outright obsessed with her. She could have prevented all this. Bro, can I tell her that Ellie spoke to them? I didn't want to agree with her, but Kagami was partially right. Ellie had promised to talk to them. Even did, if I could. Yes, say that to her. On the other hand, she couldn't and shouldn't be held responsible for the actions of others. After all, they weren't a gang or something. I remembered my run-in with them at the bar, and for a moment, wondered about the true nature of that group. On the other hand, just yesterday I thought that Kawashima and Asakura would need some time to digest that slap from Kagome. It wouldn't have been smart to get their revenge immediately. They'd be the prime suspects. At least I had thought so. Didn't things turn out the way they did? If I had been more far-sighted, I could be enjoying the quiet of a Sunday morning instead of having a meaningless conversation with Kagome. It's a little too late to confront her now, don't you think? It always starts small. In a decade, she'll be destroying the lives of thousands of families. You're exaggerating. Oh, hello, Elvis. Nice to see you here after a long time. Are you sure about that, Nico-san? My forecasts weren't always accurate. Wouldn't need to search long to find plenty of examples. But I couldn't imagine Ellie in charge of an empire of evil. Then she probably shouldn't give up on her music. What? I'm saying Ellie shouldn't give up on playing music. It's like Hitler shouldn't have given up on painting. Are you going to keep making jokes, Nico-san? I finally noticed that Kagome had started calling me by my first name way more often than before. It felt nice, but at the same time, some unclear sense of alarm crept up deep inside me. Vague and shapeless like smoke in a dark room. Yeah, joking around and stuff. Such is a clown's somber fate. I'm glad you are having fun. In reality, of course, I wasn't. I just don't think we should escalate on an already complicated situation and start fights with everyone we come across. With everyone? Or with Kobayashi in particular? Kagome was staring at me like we were playing Mafia. What are you implying? Her look made me feel uncomfortable. You seem to care a lot about her. You just can't imagine that somebody could ever think something bad about the mistress. Well, never mind. I sighed, having realized how pointless it would be to continue the conversation. Kagome obviously wasn't a person easily convinced. And if she was sure about something, it was useless to even try. Somebody knocked on the door so silently and gently that I barely heard it. Now that must be grandfather. She ran to the hall, but this time I was faster than her. Even though there actually wasn't anyone to expect about her grandfather. Except that it was Kyosuke, but picked the least appropriate moment to show up. Having opened the door, I froze in the doorway, looking at him, then turned to Kagome, then back to him. Nick, I didn't know you had guests, he said, embarrassed. Yeah, Iwamura-san dropped by too. I was about to start making more excuses, but then Kagome's grandfather appeared in the yard, and, having apparently not noticed Kyosuke, followed her to the porch. Nico-kun, you've got a visitor? Then I won't bother you. He slowly walked past me, took off his shoes, and headed to the kitchen. The silent scene lasted for some while. Fine. I sighed as if I'd managed to find my way out of a very stuffy building. It just so happened that Iwamura's home burnt down, and I'm letting her and her grandfather stay at my place for a couple days until... well, that's the story. Ah, I see. He drawled and smiled. Just don't tell anyone. This is an emergency situation. I understand perfectly, Nick. His smile grew even wider. Mom's the word. I glanced at Kagome again. She was standing with her lips pursed and arms crossed. Then I won't bother the two of you. See you tomorrow at school. Iwamura-san. He bowed politely and took his leave. Well, ain't this just perfect? What's wrong? Are you embarrassed that others at school will find out about my circumstances? If Kyosuke knows, you may as well think that the entire school does too. So you are embarrassed? He smirked. Whatever. Makes no sense to talk about it now. I loudly slammed the door shut and returned to the kitchen. The old man was standing in the middle of the room, looking around as if in search of something. Takuma immediately jumped at him with questions. Well, what did you learn? So grandfather slowly walked to the table and sat on a chair, his joints cracking and vertebrae scrunching. It seemed as he was just about to fall apart like a wooden doll. The policeman said that they're working on the case and looking for the culprits. Any details? They told me they will inform us if there was any news. Inform how? Did you tell them that we're living at Niko-san's place now? The old man looked at her, puzzled. Oh, Kagome-chan, sorry, I forgot. I see. It was strange, but Kagome reacted pretty calmly. Let me just go there again and... No need, I'll go myself. You go rest. The old man exhaled heavily, but more out of powerlessness than disappointment. It's good to be young. Then he left to my parents' room where I'd placed their futons. See? Like I told you, the police aren't going to investigate anything. Well, wait a bit, it's only been a day. If the perpetrator isn't found hot on the trail, it gets much harder to track them down later. Speaking from personal experience, statistics. There are 3 types of lies. Lies, damned lies, and statistics. Did you come up with that yourself? No? Mark Twain did. Who? It was strange that Kagome intended to make it into Todai, but didn't know such a famous writer. In a way, it said even more about her than her attitude towards Ellie. The guy who wrote books about Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. Ah. She drawled without much interest. Like I was talking about the orbital inclination of Jupiter in relation to the plane of the ecliptic. And how will this Mark Twain of yours help us find the arsonists? It was just an example. A metaphorical one. If philosophy helps solve cases, they teach it in police academies. Aren't you pragmatic? Is that a compliment? Kagome suddenly smiled. So you're going to search for the arsonists yourself? I already know who did it. I just need to prove their guilt. Are you sure that... I want to say that if it was really Kawashima, Sakura and their posse, they'd already burned one restaurant. It could well not stop there. But then I imagined the faces of the not particularly bright Asakura and the cunning but also not too intelligent Kawashima. They didn't look like criminals any more than Ellie resembled an evil empress. Alright, I've got to go to the police. I'll figure out what's going on myself. I suddenly felt that I had to go with her. Of course, Kagome didn't ask me to, but I'd already been forced to be a part of her life. If only so long as she planned to stay at my place, and however unwillingly. Do you want me to go with you? If you want to. She shrugged calmly and walked into the hallway. That was an unexpected answer. I froze for a few seconds, then ran after her. Kagome had already put her shoes on and left the yard. The weather was good today. The Sunday morning looked very appealing for a walk. When I finally caught up with Kagome, she started walking a bit slower. Are you sure going to the police is a good idea? I do have to tell them how to reach us in case they find something. Didn't you just tell me 5 minutes ago that the police won't even bother investigating your case? I did. I at least want to do everything I can. Sure, it was necessary to give the police at least some contact information. After all, we couldn't exclude the possibility of an accident or that the arson had been performed by someone outside of Kawashima's group. I wish you'd use all this energy all this energy you have for something peaceful. What are you implying? Well, you did say you kicked Kawashima and Asakura out when they came to your restaurant. What, was I supposed to offer them a tea and a cake? He smirked instead of getting indignant. No, I don't mean that. For starters, you shouldn't have picked a fight. What, Niko-san? Is saying I for myself not feminine enough? What does that have to do with? She grinned so triumphantly that I suddenly felt guilty, as if I'd actually said something utterly ridiculous. You're so easy to dig at, Niko-san. Kagome laughed. Look who's talking. I grumbled. All my interest in continuing this conversation evaporated. Kagome and I visited the police station. The officers there indeed didn't seem too interested in their job. Not that I had ever had to deal with the police before, so I had nothing to compare them to. The officer on duty reluctantly wrote down my address and telephone number, subtly hinting that we were distracting him from something much more important, even though he was flipping through some magazine when we came in. The young man looked upset and irritated when we walked out on the street. See? Just like I told you. Maybe their detectives are more energetic, I said unsurely. If they were all like that fat guy at the reception desk, there wasn't much to hope for. Since we're here, let's take a look at... I hesitated. What's left of my restaurant? Do you not believe me, Nico-san? Think I made everything up? Chris, I never said anything like that. You didn't, but you thought it. Oh, come on. Relax. I'm joking. She suddenly smiled. Let's go. I want to take another look anyway. Maybe something survived the fire. Gomez restaurant? Oh. They didn't draw it, man. Come on. Gomez restaurant, or what was left of it more like, was a sad sight. It seemed like the old wood had gone up like a match, burning down almost instantly. Thank God Kagome and her grandfather managed to escape. In place of the restaurant, there was only a pile of charred wood and kitchen equipment. Here and there were shining plates, cups, spoons, and other dishes, washed by the water from the nozzle. In the middle of it all stood an almost untouched chair, somehow having survived the inferno. Next to it was a pan, filled with charred pieces of wood that looked like burnt toast. Ravens were circling in the sky above us, apparently looking for something to scavenge. The fire hadn't spared anything valuable, of course. Roman carefully walked over what was left of Gifts of the Sea, and I tactfully waited for her on the sideline. How does it feel to lose everything you had in an instant? I lost my parents, but kept the house. And, as it turned out later, the bank account. Obviously, nothing can replace the person you love, but it's always easier to grieve in a Mercedes than digging through the ruins of your home. Once Kagame was done surveying, we returned to the station. Let's go home, she said. I noted it was actually my home. Keeping her condition in mind, chose to keep quiet. On the way back, Kagame looked like she just escaped hell herself. You shouldn't have gone after all? I asked her carefully. She didn't respond immediately. We should have. Now I'm certain what I must avenge and who should pay. Avenge? I said with surprise. How exactly? Are you going to kill them, or what? You're alone. There's plenty of them. She stubbornly remained silent, which I could tell took a considerable effort for her. If you're planning something illegal, I need to know. It's none of your business. She finally hissed through her teeth. It wouldn't be, if you hadn't decided to stay in my house. Kagome bit her lip and stopped. I don't know what to do, but... Her cheeks started trembling, and tears swelled in her eyes. I can't just forgive them for this. How am I supposed to move on, knowing those bastards are sneering at me, enjoying their freedom? Nico-san, did you know that people from the entire neighborhood came to our restaurant? For example, Kawasaki-san. He's more than 90 years old, has 12 grandchildren, and even more great-grandchildren. Suzuki-san goes out to the sea on a trawler and always comes by our place for a drink every time he returns to shore. Honda-san often played Go with my grandfather. Alright, enough. I understand. Those people, and dozens of others, are victims too. I'm not saying those responsible shouldn't face an appropriate punishment, that you aren't a police officer or a detective, but I have to. I burst into tears right in the middle of the street, the fish merchants giving me disapproving looks. I had no other choice but to hug her and try to calm her down. Kagome didn't push me away, but didn't press herself closer either, just standing and crying, as if she was leaning against the wall. There. Finally, Kagome calmed down somewhat, wiped her tears with a handkerchief and looked at me. Sorry, Nico-san, for making a scene. That wasn't like me. Thank you for letting us stay at your place. No problem. I understand. Kagome was speaking forcefully, clearly trying to sound genuine, which made me feel embarrassed. Nico-san, I don't always express my emotions properly, and I might seem rude. I know. But my grandfather and I are really grateful. Alright, I just acted like a decent person. Anyone would do the same in my place. Kagome looked at me enigmatically and shrugged. We barely talked on the way back. Apparently, she said everything she wanted, and I felt an ambiguous awkwardness that made me not want to strike up a conversation. Well, Kagome did drag me to a store and bought a number of simple groceries for lunch, and even paid with her own money. When I said that it was the last of her money, she just scoffed. The old man was waiting for us at home, nervously snoring at the kotatsu. The sight made me a little embarrassed, but Kagome seemed to pay zero attention to him. Right, I guess it's time to have lunch. He looked at the clock with a shade of doubt. Are you asking me? Yes, who else? Well, sure. I agreed carefully. Kagome was cooking lunch with something akin to a frenzy. Meanwhile, I couldn't decide whether to stay in the kitchen or go to my room. I couldn't turn on the TV because of her sleeping grandfather, who hadn't even noticed our return. Since there were no other alternatives, it was a great time to think. If Kawashima and Asuka really were to blame, their actions seemed extremely illogical. First, threatening Kagome and then later that night burning down her restaurant. Sure, maybe they'd simply grown extremely cocky and had even gone berserk from impunity. Kawashima at least didn't look like a complete idiot. I didn't know who their parents were, but arson is no petty crime. It's easy to lose control over yourself when you're never punished for throwing around insults, or humiliating people, or getting into small fights. But it's not like every school hoodlum ends up a real criminal. Besides, all of them had something to lose: money, status, reputation. Was revenge for a slap enough to put all that at risk? I could even imagine Kawashima going so far as asking her friends to raid Kagome for not burning her restaurant at night, with people sleeping inside. The risk of there being victims seemed unjustifiably high. Who was the culprit then? Maybe the police would manage to establish whether it was an arson or an accidental fire. I didn't know how Gifts of the Sea had been doing financially, but it was obvious that even if they had had issues, their creditors weren't going to destroy their debtors' only source of income. Competitors. Judging by what Kagome had told me about their regulars, I could quite confidently assume they mostly serve the same people year after year, and the customer base didn't much change. In general, the restaurant looked like an establishment that had been barely making ends meet. It would seem that no one had an obvious motive to burn the place. Nobody, except for Kawashima and Asakura. But yet, it would have been an unreasonable response to a simple slap. Man, I sighed and changed position. My legs had fallen asleep. What are you sighing for? I'm almost done. Kagome replied, displeased. No, it's not because of that. Because of what then? She cast a quick glance at her grandfather, but he kept snoring. I was just thinking that arson is a bit too much for high school students. No, isn't it too much for her? Put a knife down and turned to me. Kawashima didn't seem like a total idiot to me, and she's next in the group's hierarchy after Ellie. So? Well, think about it. They come to your place in the afternoon to talk things over, then burn it down the same night. Who would be the prime suspects then? You're speaking from the position of a person who is afraid of the consequences of his actions. Kawashima might not even think she'd ever have to bear responsibility for them. Money doesn't automatically make you into an idiot. Kagome didn't respond and kept cooking. You disagree? I just know it's them. That's it? You just know? I don't want to play their lawyer, but presumption of innocence is still a thing. You need to prove their guilt, not the other way around. Of course, if they left something at the crime scene, like a gas can with their fingerprints. I suddenly realized that I was pretty much talking to myself. I had long stopped listening to me. The awkward silence was broken by her grandfather, woken up by the delicious smells. Kagome-chan, is it still lunchtime? Oh, is it lunchtime already? The old man stood up with such an effort that I worried he might break a bone. I wanted to cook something for you, but dozed off. He walked to the table and sat next to me. How are things with the police? Lunch turned out to be no worse than breakfast. Kagome was an excellent cook, and unlike Himitsu, handled basic and complicated dishes equally well. Himitsu could impress me with borscht, but her basic dishes were often a bit plain. Thank you. Enjoy. That's the least I can do. Kagome was about to take the dishes away to wash them, but I stopped her. No way. This time I'll wash them myself. She just smiled in response. I opened the tap, partially listening to her conversation with the old man. Honda-san, we're going to play today. God's sake, is let go is the most important thing in your life. Kagome-chan, but I'm sure when Honda-san sees the restaurant in ashes, he'll figure out the game is cancelled. The old man didn't reply immediately. If thought the sea was my life's work. I know you didn't spend much time in the restaurant, but I hoped you would inherit it. Since Shinji went into science, you could marry Nico-san and take him into the family. Grandfather, Kagome exclaimed, and I could hear both anger and embarrassment in her voice. Anyway, I have to go now. Where to? I turned around. It's something to do. What happened in the restaurant is, of course, a tragedy for us, but no one died and life goes on. I didn't know what to say to that. We were roommates now, but that didn't give me a right to poke my nose into her life. Listen to Nico-san, grandfather. The rest of the day passed without any incidents. I talked with the old man about this and that, watched the TV, read the book for quite a while, made dinner. Finally, I couldn't hold back anymore. Do you know where Kagome went off to? I don't. He drawled as if he hadn't understood the question. Does she often disappear like this until late at night? Nico-kun, you have to understand that it hasn't been easy for Kagome-chan since her mother died. We didn't talk much when Yuno-san was alive. She and Shinji didn't last long. He sighed and stared out into the moonlight-lit yard with his old cloudy eyes. Divorce. In my youth, nobody would have ever thought of that. Kagame's past was clearly full of secrets, and I wanted to learn more about it. Just when I was about to start asking questions, the doorbell rang. Kagome was back. I opened the door, she greeted me politely and came in, holding a bag in her hands. Is that what you call dinner? Kagome walked to the stove and lifted the lid of a pan in which I had left some gyoza for her. Is there at least meat inside? Implying that the dumplings were store-bought. Well, we didn't know when you would come back, I said evasively. I see. I'm tired and I want to go to sleep. Okay. Good night. It wasn't that late, but only by my standards. A lot of Japanese were indeed asleep by now. I'll go too, Nico-kun. Good night to you too, Moriyuki-san. I was soon left alone, and my kitchen for the first time in a while appeared lifeless and empty, like someone had taken all the furniture and the utensils out of it. I hadn't felt lonely there in quite a while. Maybe it was about Himitsu, who had created a homely atmosphere, or maybe about the memories of my dead parents that would still sometimes come over me. Now, with pretty much strangers were sleeping in their room, I began to realize how big the house was for just one tenant. The sleep wouldn't come, and I long kept tossing and turning on the bed with a book in hand, until I finally passed out. All the interrogations and investigations of Kagame's past could wait for tomorrow. Monday is always a difficult day. One of the first thoughts I had in the morning was about how long it would take for Kyosuke to spread the word that he'd met Kagame at my place. And if only that was the only problem. Kyosuke seeing her grandfather meant the story would be painted in totally different colors by his telling. Completely Lovecraftian colors that had nothing to do with reality. Kyosuke's story spreading was scarier than the chance that the actual truth might come out. Breakfast was already ready when I entered the kitchen, which buoyed my spirit somewhat. Good morning. Kagame sat at the table with her grandfather by her side. Another chair sat across from them. Against my will, the setup was leaving me the hot seat, like the accused in a courtroom. Good morning, Nico-kun. Did you sleep well? Pretty well, thank you. How about you? How is it to fall asleep in a new place? Old people generally don't sleep well. He smiled, and his expression was so full of humility that it made me feel a bit uncomfortable. He was supposed to be about the same age as Kobayashi-jun, although I only had a very vague idea on how to tell the ages of people way older than me. Still, the head of Kobayashi Corporation both looked and acted with much more confidence. No offense to Moriyuki-san, but you could say that his life was at its nadir, while Kobayashi-jun gave the impression of a brisk old man, still full of energy. What about you? Slept well? Asked Kagome somewhat ironically. Well enough. We're drinking coffee. smell of it bringing back memories that seemed like they didn't belong to me. The instructive tone of my mother and the detached expression on my father's face. The monotonous hum of the television and the noise of the vacuum cleaner. When did I last use a vacuum cleaner? Casting these thoughts away, I focus on the food. Thank you. Everything was delicious. You're welcome, Kagome replied coldly. And now we need to go to school. Only then did I notice she was wearing her uniform. I see you say what's most important from the fire. What do you mean? Uniform? Of course not. I bought a new one yesterday. Ah, that's where you went. What did you think? Didn't think a thing. I snapped back and stood up. We walked out of the house together, but I stopped at the gate. Maybe it'd be better if you go to school separately. What, are you afraid we'll be seen together? I'm not, but... I sighed and closed my eyes for a while, as if hoping that the cruel outside world would turn into something else. Yosuke must have told everyone already, but there may be all kinds of unbelievable rumors going around about us at school. Okay. For example? Well, for example... Of course, Kyosuke had a much more vivid imagination than I did. Daddy, you're pregnant, and your grandfather is here to supervise our engagement. Blushed, but then giggled. Only your Kyosuke knew my grandfather. He's the one who has to be supervised. But he doesn't. What Kyosuke doesn't know, he tends to make up. Even if that's the case, I'm not too scared. Good for you. Truth be told, I had zero interest in catching weird looks and becoming the subject of gossip. I had more important things to deal with and I didn't need the extra attention. So do we have a deal? Everyone looked at me seriously. Nico-san, I understand what you mean, but I'm not going to toe the line, hide, or let them control my life. Do you understand the concept of a reasonable compromise? We aren't towing any lines. We're just trying not to make the situation any worse. It's not like you can explain to every single person what's going on, right? Or, I don't know, give a speech in front of the entire school from a podium like the principal would. Common sense. Understand? Roman was looking at me. My eyebrows slowly but steadily drawn together. If you don't want to go to school with me, you don't have to. You don't have to go to school at all. What do I care? She turned around abruptly and walked away. I managed to get what I wanted in the end, but I would have liked to do so a little more peacefully. Oh, but why did you want this? Jesus Christ. After 5 minutes, I decided Kagome was far enough ahead of me. It was quiet in Himitsu's house. I wondered how she'd react once she found out I had another girl living with me. I walked to school slower than usual, changed my shoes, and went up to the second floor. It seemed like nobody was looking at me with particular attention. Everything changed as soon as I entered the classroom. Kagome was sitting behind her desk, looking out the window. It was like someone had set up an invisible wall separating my new roommate from the rest of the class. Guys reacted like they'd seen someone from the opposing team in their locker room. But the girls started whispering frantically. I walked to my desk and gave Kyosuke a solemn look. He was pretending not to notice me. Actually, I wasn't too angry at him. It's stupid to be angry with a nightingale for singing. That's just how the bird is. I was more annoyed by the need to put on an act. Pretend. But I was living with the girl, so what? What's the big deal? Why was everyone so interested in other people's lives? I could have understood, but they weren't even my friends. Except me before Michael approached me. Hey Nick, I don't want to start this conversation, but it's better if you hear it from me. I'm listening. I know what's gonna happen. I prepared myself to learn what Kyosuke's creative genius had produced. I know what's gonna happen. People are saying you impregnated Iwamura-san, got her kicked out of the house, and now she's living with you. Yeah. It was the same. Maybe I shouldn't have underestimated my imagination after all. It was almost the story I had told Kagome half an hour ago. Kyosuke? I asked in a dull voice. She didn't reply. Just looked at me sympathetically. Kyosuke? I repeated. I don't know for sure. His voice has nothing to do with it. In any case, Nick, you should know I don't believe it. I sound like Golem trying to persuade Frodo and Sam that they can trust him. Just tell me, how did you find out about it? The entire class knows. I see. I grit my teeth and clench my fists. I don't think it was Kyosuke. At least, not deliberately. Thanks. I heard you. There are only several minutes left before class. Not enough to have a serious conversation with Kyosuke. Somehow, my initial goodwill toward him had disappeared without a trace. Maybe it was because the school would eventually find out about Kagome's new living condition. And even if not, I wouldn't feel guilty about that. But they'd only learn what the bare truth was, not wrapped in Kyosuke's bountiful imagination. I knew he could have spiced it up a little, sure, but this was beyond the pale. I barely managed to wait until the end of our first class. The entire time, Kyosuke tried so desperately not to look in my direction that he probably deserved an award just for effort. Finally, the bell rang, and I dashed to his desk. Let's go and talk, my dear friend. I grabbed Kyosuke by the back of his jacket and dragged him to the hallway. Nick, I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't me. He immediately started offering excuses. Good that you know. It'll save us some time. I swear, I haven't told anybody that you and Iwamura-san... Well, I mean... What, me and Iwamura-san? I don't know, Nick. I saw you together, but that doesn't mean that you... That we what? Her house burned down. You just offered help. A roof over her head, so to say. Anyone in your place would. Yosuke tried to make excuses, but it was clear to see what he really thought about the whole situation. Could I blame him? Kagumi's restaurant had burned down a month ago. Would I have let her live at my place while she and her grandfather tried to figure out what to do next? I had to at least be honest with myself. It wasn't likely. But Kyosuke didn't know about the events of the last couple of weeks. Most people in his position would have come to the wrong conclusion. Look, I know this seems strange from the outside. I'm letting a classmate I had barely talked to before live at my home. Her grandfather too. But she has her own circumstances, and so do I. There's nothing between us. The last phrase felt like it had been said by someone else. In any case, nobody gave you the right to gossip about it. Nick, I swear I haven't told anyone. Haven't told anyone probably means you only told a couple of friends and asked them to keep it secret, right? Not telling anyone means telling nobody. Then when would I have had the time? It hasn't even been a day. Rumors spread quickly. Nick, I'm serious. Kyosuke was speaking so confidently, I even doubted myself for a moment. Could anyone else have seen us? I couldn't exclude the possibility, but it was hard to imagine any of my classmates spying on me on a Sunday. Okay, so who could it be then? You said it yourself, it hasn't been a day. Nick, I swear I don't know. Suddenly his face brightened up. What about Himitsu-chan? Have you asked her? Himitsu? I said automatically, the name echoing disturbingly in my mind. Himitsu can keep her mouth shut, unlike some people. I haven't even seen... And even if she'd talk to me first. No, I couldn't imagine Himitsu spreading the rumor. Well, our relationship was far from perfect lately. Human perception is so strange. I never thought Himitsu was a bad person, but here I was ready to attribute her with something she'd never do. Not Himitsu. And not me. He was sticking to his guns, and I had no idea what to do next. Yosuke didn't have a particularly strong backbone, sure, but if he was sure about something, he wouldn't back down. But his visit yesterday and his encounter with Kagome and her grandfather, it has to be a coincidence. Okay. I'm not really doubting him, but I do want to keep pushing a little. Like, not really pushing, but making like promise as a friend that he has not told a soul anything even remotely close to that. You know? That's what I would do. Who could it be then? Why do you immediately assume that it was me when there are no other suspects? Because you miraculously dropped by my place yesterday and saw. Felt like I was ashamed of the fact Kagome was living at my home. What you saw? You only sighed heavily in response. I'm not angry at you. I tried to say it as gently as possible. I just need the truth. If I had really told everyone, I would have told you so already, don't you think? That's a valid point, of course. Yosuke was a blabbermouth, but not a slanderer. He could have let it slip while talking to someone, but he would immediately confess to it. I guess. The pregnancy? I had in a softer voice. It's not just someone saying that they saw you more at my place. Maybe someone wanted to hurt you. Okay. Okay, so I was right. He didn't do it. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I like this. But if it were you would have told me, right? Of course, Nick. His expression was so genuine I even felt ashamed for being suspicious of him. And who could it be? I doubt there's someone watching my house 24/7. Except probably for the KGB and Kobayashi Corporation. I couldn't imagine an organization like that spreading rumors at my school. And a pregnancy? Okay. Skip. Nice. Just then, I love the skipping animation, by the way. The effects, I mean. Just then, Kagome appeared up from around the corner, walking straight for us. There you are. He immediately jumped on Kyosuke. Mind telling me if I look pregnant? I mean, wait. Better stand up for my friend as I wasn't so sure about his guilt anymore. Nico-san, I can handle this myself. Give me off, once again showing her unwavering tenacity, capable to tear down anything and everything on the way to her goal. So, answer me. What the hell were you thinking? Kyosuke was the sorry side. Imamura-san, I've already explained to Nick that it wasn't me. It was pure coincidence we met at this place. I haven't told anyone a word about it, I swear. Just a coincidence, you say? How convenient. Imamura-san, I don't believe in coincidences. God, what else am I supposed to do to get you two to believe me? I believe you, Kyosuke, by the way. He looked away from her and to me, looking for support. I really think that Kagome didn't even look at me. When you call yourself Nico-san's friend, you already saw anyone for your 15 minutes of fame. Even if Kyosuke actually was at fault here, I hadn't done it out of malice. Wait, just hold your horses. And you, Nico-san, you're perfectly happy to let anyone walk all over you. No wonder you nurse such a snake on your chest. Kagome, enough, you're taking it too far. And you, know that I won't leave it like this. Kept attacking Kyosuke. Kagome was panting. Seemingly he couldn't come up with a realistic enough threat. In the end, she scoffed, turned around, and all but ran in the direction of her classroom. Nick, what did she mean? Kyosuke looked genuinely scared. Going to ambush you after school and stab you in the back with a knife. On the other hand, if Kagome really is pregnant, she wouldn't risk the child. Then she'll send her grandfather after you instead. He's a black belt in karate. Don't be deceived by his feeble appearance. Oh, you're joking, right? What do you think? I asked warily. Imamura-san can be very persuasive when she wants to be. And she can. These words made my heart to respond with a warm feeling. It was someone close to me being praised. Oh, she really won't do anything to me? He kept worrying. Calm down, she won't. I'll see to it. But we still don't know who's spreading these rumors and why. Someone must benefit from it. Benefit from it? I returned the thought that had been interrupted by Kagome's appearance. If I had to name the people in this school I could call enemies, it'd be Asakura, Kawashima, and the rest of their gang. Sakura? Hasn't been at school this morning. That means nothing, I guess. I wanted to ask something else, but the bell rang. Bro, Ellie came by our house as well. Are we forgetting this? Asakura wasn't there by the second period either. Of course, in itself this wasn't any more unusual than my constant truancy. She could have spread the rumor yesterday over the phone. I was sure she had enough connection at school to do so. But I couldn't just sit and do nothing. If it wasn't Asakura, that must have been... Okay, then it must have been Kawashima. Naturally, I couldn't just run to the classroom and start accusing her. I could talk to Ellie. I barely waited for the break and hurried to the old music room. I hoped Ellie didn't believe the rumors. Actually, even though yesterday's conversation hadn't ended well, I still managed to explain everything to her. It was quiet in the old wing. I hesitated at the classroom's door for a moment, but then got it together and pulled on the handle. Fortunately, Ellie hadn't changed her pattern and was here today too. I was just sitting behind the piano looking out the window. Hello. I greeted her politely. Ah, Nick. I thought you wouldn't come. I replied phlegmatically. Sorry for yesterday. And then I stopped myself. Although, you know, I have nothing to apologize for. I haven't done anything wrong. Yes, you're right. The sadness in her voice sounded unusual. But I still need to talk to you. Ellie, you've probably already heard what they're saying about Iwamura and I. I have. And hopefully you don't believe it. Iwamura-san didn't look pregnant yesterday. She smiled. But it was like she was a defendant in court who, despite long fighting to overturn her conviction, finally realized how powerless she was to change it. I wanted to joke about Kagume's pregnancy being in its early stages, but changed my mind at the last moment. I'm glad, but I'd really like to know who's spreading these rumors. Ellie apparently took my question for a rhetorical one. That's why I wanted to ask you. Maybe Kawashima said something? You think it's Marie? She asked very calmly. I hadn't expected this reaction. Well, considering her relationship with Iwamura, and let's be honest, I've also had some disagreements with her. I don't know, Nick. Everyone was talking about it. Marie as well. But I have no idea who started it. I see. I drawled, moved a bit closer to the piano. Suddenly felt like I was crossing an invisible line, and returned to the door. What are you so worried about? What are you so worried about? You and Iwamura-san love each other. What do you care about other people's opinions? Love? I exclaimed. There's nothing between us. Things just turn out like this, that's all. Right. You're the perfect stranger to live with you. There's nothing to be ashamed of, Nick. I'm not ashamed of anything. But the thought that Kagome and I could be in a relationship actually made me uncomfortable. And the feeling was nothing like the one you'd have when being pushed to get together with the ugliest girl in class. If there were something between us, I would have told you. The light of hope seemed to glimmer in Ellie's eyes for a moment, but then it went out. I just couldn't say no to her, after everything that had happened. Her father went missing, her house burned down. It was also their only source of income. All their money went up in the fire too. Yes, we have something in common, I won't deny that, but love? Ellie, you got it all wrong. You're explaining yourself like I'm accusing you of a crime. I guess I really was trying hard to justify myself. But to persuade someone else of something, you have to convince yourself of it first. Was that exactly what I was doing? I have nothing more to say. I totally forgot I had wanted to talk to her about Kawashima. It seemed that Ellie knew nothing more than what she told me. I understand that you're no longer interested in playing bass. Ah, right, about that. Naturally, I hadn't been thinking about that at all. It's just not the best time right now. I'll think about it when everything is sorted out. No need. No need for what? Music isn't something you should be forced to do. Yeah, but I felt like a lazy student afraid of dropping out only because his parents had spent a lot of money and effort to get him going into university. I understand, Nick. No worries. I'm not upset. Iwamura-san is more important to you now. Only then did I notice that Ellie was constantly calling Kagome Iwamura-san. She'd never referred to her so politely when talking alone with me before. I'm telling you. I get it. She interrupted me, feeling notes in her voice. But since she got it, what was the point in arguing? Well, fine. I really doubt that I can help you with finding Iwamura-san's father, but feel free to turn to me if you need help. Ellie stood up and walked past me. I could see both sadness and determination on her face, like she made an important but very hard decision. Thank you, I said to no one when I was left alone. Perhaps somewhere deep inside I could guess what Ellie felt. Same way you can sometimes guess that the next card would be an ace. Except that with the hand I had at the moment, an ace would be too much. Didn't even want to think about it. Seemed like our acquaintance would end here. And that would be better for everybody. She really couldn't help with finding Kagome's father, but she was capable, even if unintentionally, of making the situation worse. I looked at Sakura's empty desk. They'd managed to get away with everything up to this point. Spreading a rumor would barely warrant mentioning. That's for sure. Anyway, Kagome and her grandfather left for Hokkaido. This incident would quickly be forgotten. Teenagers yearn for new experiences and have trouble with consistency. The thought that I'd never see Kagome again made me feel uncomfortable. As if I were losing a close friend, or... In the end, I want to get to the truth too, and learn the real reason for my parents' deaths. I was going to talk to Kagome during the next break, but our inescapable English teacher took her away immediately. Michael approached me. Nick, do you have plans after school? Not any I can think of. Is there something you wanted to do? Do you want to walk home together? I've got something to talk about. It should take 15 minutes or so. Okay. Once classes were over, we left school and casually headed for my house. Michael was quiet, as if he'd forgotten that he meant to have a conversation with me. Well, I'm all ears. Nick, have you found out who was spreading the rumors about you and Iwamura-san? No, we're still on it. Do you have suspects? Sakura, Kawashima, who else would be interested in doing this? Do you have any evidence? Even if I did, what of it? You can't put a person behind bars for being an asshole in Japan. But you don't think it's Kyosuke's fault anymore? I guess not. I don't know. Lard ass has a big mouth and all, but pregnancy? When would we have time for that? Yes, yesterday I had no idea what Yomamu's first name was. But now you do. From anyone else I would have taken that as a taunt. But Michael's face bore his usual ambiguous expression of both conscious concentration and thoughtful detachment. Do you also think there's something between us? Is that the case? No, it's not. I sighed, too wary to even get angry. The restaurant she lived in burned to the ground. He asked to stay at my place for a time. I agreed. That's it. I see. At least he wasn't going to interrogate me. And that's what you wanted to talk to me about? Not just that. I wanted to inform you that I'd asked Catherine out. Inform? I smirked. But his information echoed with dull pain somewhere inside. And did she say? She agreed. Well, you're not going to get any congratulations from me. But let's say I'm happy for you. Nick, just want you to know that you did your best to make it right. Sure, I get it. My blatant sarcasm rang in the air. I didn't mean anything like that. Fair thing. Michael's latest attempt to make himself seem like an honest friend didn't make me as widely indignant as the last one. What was the point in berating a person when they don't understand what they're doing wrong? Was there really one to judge wrong from right? Alright, I don't want to discuss Catherine. I'm just too preoccupied for that. You see what's going on around me, right? Michael stopped and offered his hand. Take care, Nick. You too. I responded hesitantly. And yet, this conversation woke up feelings I really could live without at the moment. I wondered how Catherine would react to the rumor that I'd gotten Kagome pregnant. I hadn't looked at Katya once the entire day. I seemed to even have forgotten she existed. Kagome occupied not only my house but also my thoughts. She made her problems mine and forced me to look at things from new angles, including things that had seemed unshakable to me. Of course, it was clear that Catherine wouldn't believe such nonsense, but there's no smoke without fire. She wouldn't spread rumors if there wasn't any substance to them at all. I really had been spending a lot of time with Kagome lately. That much would be hard not to notice. But should I even worry about Catherine's opinion? Not like I expected us to ever get together again, right? Things we no longer need are hard to throw away because we've become too attached to them. And feel like we'd lose something important by throwing them into the garbage. We like to think they can still be used somehow, coming up with absurd uses for an old pan or a broken pair of scissors. The irony is, we totally forget their existence a minute or two after finally throwing them away. Of course, I don't want to compare my feelings for Catherine to an old pan, but in a sense, the analogy was appropriate. Coming home, I found Kagome's grandfather in front of the TV. Sorry, Nikko-kun, I couldn't find anything to do. I'm used to working at the restaurant during the day, but no. It's alright, I understand. I sounded annoyed despite myself. You're holding up just fine. Once you reach my age, you understand that all material things come and go. I still feel sorry for the restaurant. Kagome still hasn't come back from school? I haven't seen her. The old man replied hesitantly. You had it good. Wouldn't have noticed even if war broke out. As it often happened at this time of the day, hunger occupied all my thoughts. Moriyuki-san, would you like to have lunch? I don't think Kagome will be upset if we eat without her. Of course, Nikko-kun, of course. He livened up, stood up with some effort, and walked to the fridge. The old man cooked well, but his dishes missed something special. His rice tasted somehow dusty. Maybe the smell of senility confused my olfactory receptors. A restaurant wouldn't have lasted long with a chef like this. That made me respect Kagome and her contribution to the family business even more. Moriyuki-san was eating slowly and looked like a meditating Buddhist monk. I didn't want to interrupt his thoughts, but also couldn't bear to remain silent. Kagome must be... I've been helping a lot at the restaurant, right? Oh yes. Kagome-chan takes every job very seriously. When she only just started living with us 3 years ago, Kagome-chan couldn't cook at all. Can you believe it? Barely, to be honest. Cooking didn't seem to me like some sort of forbidden art that would take a lifetime to master. But coming so far in such a short amount of time, that was worthy of respect. After all, Kimitsu had been cooking for as long as I knew her. He would spend many hours in the kitchen in the evenings after work and in the early morning until she learned. It sounds like her. I realized that she never wanted to spend her entire life over a stove or serving food to tipsy fishermen. But her mother, Yuno-san, left us too early. What happened to her? His eyes became cloudy, and the old man stared at his plate, as if forgetting my presence. Moriki-san? Kagome-chan will tell you herself when the time comes. That when the time comes sounded pretty menacing. But I couldn't just keep prying, right? Thank you, Moriki-san. It was delicious. I'll wash the dishes. Thank you, Nikko-kun, for everything. The old man got back to his TV while I went to my room and grabbed a random book from the shelf. It was Golding's novel, The Spire. I didn't even remember where I got the book from. I read Lord of the Flies once, but didn't get much out of it beyond the message that leaving teenagers without any supervision wasn't a good idea. People unrestrained by an external force, be it law, religion, or morals, sooner or later degrade to a primal form. To what extent were Kawashima and Asakura similar with the protagonists of Lord of the Flies? Unlike Ellie, I doubt that anyone expected anything great from them. Consequently, there was no pressure from above. Their wealth removed any pressure from below. Of course, their parents might have provided a moral compass instead, but judging by their girls' behavior, they had failed at that. Maybe Kawashima and Asakura would get their wits about them when they entered adult life. Maybe as they got older, the societal norms from which they would no longer be able to escape would clamp down on their primal instincts. For the time being, we were all shipwrecked together on the same island, a school for rich kids. And I felt as if they were worshipping a pig's head on a stake, expecting to get pleasures in return, but more importantly, reassurance and security. Evening came, but Kagome still hadn't returned. I began to worry and was pacing from one room to another. Meanwhile, Moriyuki-san was peacefully sleeping in front of the working TV and didn't seem to be concerned at all about his grand altar. After it had long gotten dark outside, I made a simple dinner and invited the old man to join me. When you sleep like this all day, it's hard to fall asleep at night. Moriyuki-san, do you know where Kagome is? Is it normal for her to be missing like this the whole day? I don't know, Nikko-kun. Kagome-chan is a big girl already. I'm too old to be watching her. When Shinji was with us. Right. I hope he'll be found. You know, when Shinji was about your age, I was so happy that he enjoyed studying and he was planning to go into science. But in the end, was it worth it? I always knew Kagome-chan wouldn't want to run the restaurant after my death either. And the whole thing was nothing but trouble. I couldn't just drop it, of course, but why would the young ones need it? And now, there's no restaurant anymore. I remained silent, and Moriyuki-san didn't seem to be expecting any sympathy. We simply ate in silence. If I knew where to find Kagome, that's what I would be doing right now. But why would I be worried about her absence in the first place? I already let them stay at my place, and now I was going to allow Kagome to rule my life. Somebody knocked on the door loudly. There she was. I dashed to the entrance so quickly it was like I'd been waiting for this the whole day. Where have you been? We were worried. Kagome was sitting on the porch and she looked tired. Who's we? I was. And Moriyuki-san. I'm sure grandfather didn't even notice I wasn't there. To some extent, she was correct. So will you let me in? I stepped aside, allowing her to pass. Kagome-chan. The old man had begun to fall asleep again. It's your home. I'm going to sleep. Good night. He got up slowly, his joints cracking like he was about to come apart, and slowly dragged himself to the room he shared with Kagome. You know, I was saying, don't bring your rules to a stranger's house. While you live here, please be so kind as to tell me when you'll be back. Just natural, after all. You don't even have any keys. Granted, it's home. Kagome replied angrily and walked to the stove, where the leftovers from dinner were waiting for her in the pot. I see you weren't starving. It's not my stomach you should be worried about. Nikko-san, stop being hysterical. I was looking for my father. Fine, but you could have warned me? I guess I could. Kagome sighed and put the lid back over the pot. but didn't think it was necessary. I saw you leaving school with that American. Michael. His name is Michael. Whatever. It was cold and even hostile. Maybe something happened while she was looking for her father, but I'd gotten too fired up that I couldn't stop. Listen, if there's something you're unhappy about, nobody's keeping you here. We'll be leaving soon, she said very calmly. And for now, I'm sorry. I'm very tired and going to sleep too. What happened? What do you mean? Well, you were looking for your father. Did you find anything? Nothing is something too. Carmen was looking at me attentively, not moving from her place. I seem to remember someone asking for my help just recently. The events of the last few days had pushed the fact of her father's disappearance somewhere on the back burner. That was the case for me, but what about Kagome? Yes, sorry. I should have warned you. Her mood suddenly softened. I tried to find Nishimura-san, but to no avail. I'd imagine so. He turned pale as soon as he saw the papers. By the way, the papers. Only now that I remember the documents I had gotten Ichinos had taken by the KGB. Kagome didn't reply, just lowered her head. I see. You should have left him at my place, I almost said. The overall situation seemed to be grim. Kagome couldn't stand alone against the might of the corporation. Did she realize that? Nigo-san, can I go to sleep? Of course. I'm not holding you. In reality, I wanted to ask her about a lot more. But the right questions refused to come to mind. Good night, then. Good night. Kagome hesitated. Nigo-san, what do you want for breakfast? Maybe it's not obvious, but I'm grateful for what you're doing for us. There's no way I can pay you back, but I can at least cook. I don't need anything special. It's not like I expect you to make borscht. I smirked. Borscht? What's that? Well, it's a soup. It was red beet, cabbage, carrots, meat broth, maybe something else, I don't even know. Boroshite. Kagome tried to pronounce it, a difficult word for a Japanese person. She smiled and went to bed. Closed the door to her room while I longer remained in the kitchen, accompanied by the sound of the TV, thinking about how my life ended up like this. Could things have gone differently? In other words, could I have just closed the door on Kagome and her grandfather as they smell of smoke? Leave them on the street and just go on with my life without a second thought, forgetting about that unfortunate incident? Kagome basically left me no choice. After all, I did have a lot of free space at home, and she asked for nothing more than that. When a person receives a demand to give up something insignificant to meet social expectations, they usually agree. Kagome wasn't demanding money. She just moved into the room next to mine and began to cook breakfast and occasionally lunch and dinner. To an extent, the situation resembled my relationship with Himitsu, but with her, I could always lock the door from the inside, pretend to be sick, or just ignore her. But it's not so easy to ignore someone you live with. And the strangest thing was, there was the loss of an ephemeral sense of control that bothered me more than the fact that Kagome and her grandfather were living with me. Moruki-san was, in fact, a lovely old man who wasn't causing me any trouble. As for his granddaughter, I still couldn't decide how I was supposed to feel about Kagome and how I wanted to. Under different circumstances, we would have graduated in half a year without saying a dozen words to each other and would have never seen each other again. Of course, me meeting Ellie was also random to a degree, but at least we had something in common, that being music. In the case of Kagome, we were only connected by the fact that Kobayashi Corporation had caused pain to us both. And as is widely known, feelings born from a stressful situation rarely last long. But then again, feelings? Of course, it could well be due to the rumor that I got Kagome pregnant. Whether I wanted it or not, it made me imagine how my life would pan out if that really happened. Don't think about a polar bear, huh? Or was the monkey? My head full of albino animals, I went to bed. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Hungry? They're talking about food, bro. And in 3.5 hours. That's the longest I've played this game for in a single session. I dreamed that Kagome was kidnapped and the ransom had been demanded from me. Okay, let's finish this dream, and then I'll stop. Of course, in the morning I forgot the details. The only thing I remembered was that there was someone else with me at home. Girl. Wasn't really a nightmare. More like a thriller full of suspense than a real nightmare. Unfortunately, the ending of the dream was wiped out by the first rays of the autumn sun, and Carmen's fate remained unclear. Okay, that's it. She made borscht. Okay, that was pretty um, foreseeable, expected, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for now. Probably for the rest of today as well. I don't know if I'll be coming back. I would like to, but then again, I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not gonna promise anything. So I most likely won't be coming back. So in that case, I'll see you tomorrow. Wait, let me save first. Um, I'll save here. Doesn't matter. Okay. Bye, guys.